Give that a refresh. Hello, welcome. Sunday, the 12th of July. It's a neighbourly chat, something different today. It's some more of the same, but it's not a complicated, legal, international, usual play on words, etymologically rooted, politically motivated title. It's just a simple chat with our neighbours. There's a lot to encompass, but we're going to keep the theme of where we was at. Etymological, yes, words, language, lingu, religion, credit, money, those kind of things, current affairs, the reintegration of sanctioning, the BBC licence, 200 scientists talking to WHO, asking them if they're sure. There's a lot to cover really. The failures of the UK Health Department, government in many ways. I've got a list here. So, we've had the anniversary of Srebrenica in, was it Eastern European, near where our lass is from actually, the Croatia, Bosnia um, anniversaries come up, and there was a massacre there, a genocide, I believe, if you're up to speed on that. So, history, those that do not remember their history are doomed to repeat it, is why I say that. And there's a mark of respect to man fighting man, neighbour fighting neighbour there. When you look at Srebrenica, go on, sorry.
Shout out to all the lefties.
No, but you look at Croatia and Bosnia and what's going off. We've got a London city incorporating their rule of law and masquerading as, and slaughtering us. And they've had the United Nations interface, wasn't it, with Milosevic, Slobodan, and so forth. That was a horrific. When I drove to the pyramid, when I travelled to the Pyramid of the Sun at Viseko Hill, I said to Anne Marie, why are the houses still half here? Not all of them, but bullet holes ridden through, and it was like it happened last week, not scores of years ago. So, love thy neighbour is what it says there. Not to covet thy neighbour. Kev, you want to carry on? Say hello.
Hello. Yes, thou shalt not covet thy neighbour's ass.
What?
How are we? Good evening and welcome to the madness. Hope you're well. Hope you're chilled. Hope you had a nice weekend. Is your weekend extending into next week as your life returns to normal-ish? Have you been down the pub? Much love to everybody. Nice to see you.
How are you then, Kev? How's it?
I'm not bad, thank you. I'm not bad. Had a chilled day. You've chat with Graham earlier. I'll speak to you about, and a few little bits and pieces, but mostly just chilled. Watched a couple of movies. That's about it, really. But all nice and relaxed, and carrying on in that vein. Not bad at all. And yourself?
Yeah, busy. I'm good. I've got a gappy front tooth, so you'll all notice my fuzz, my Fs are, as you can imagine, with your tombstone tooth, your tough missing there. I'll try my best to my elocution, my enunciation will be slightly off, even more so than usual. But the pain is down to a minimum. I've got the camera off because I'd like it just to subdue. Yeah, let it settle, petal.
The pirate look.
It's here. I'm adorning it now. So, yes. What else have I got to say there? We're going to read then. Let's get on with it because we're going to get into it. Get your pens and pads ready. I've got an excerpt to read you. I'm going to talk about common law and equity, establishing AD CE 1535. This from the point moving forward, all those who are construed to be only holding a use, a possession, we'll say, of any property under the land tenure will now be seized holder, let me just maximise my screen, of the legal title also, to which before was vested in a trustee or fee offer, and that is FEOFFOR when I say fee offer. History and etymology for fee offment is Middle English, fiefment from Anglo-French, from FIFA, fee offer, to invest with a fee, from fee, and it's got various spellings of fee there. So if the settlor A transferred legal title to trustee B with instructions to hold such title for the benefit of beneficiary C, and now with the passing of the statute of uses, all such agreements before and now hereafter, in order to be construed to be under the common law jurisdiction, annulled the trustee B position, and thus vested both legal and beneficial title now into beneficiary C. So without a trustee, there is no trust. So this matter could be a matter then, of the common law, of what's resulted there with the passing of the statute of uses, it was saying. So just bear with me. The trust, although, was a matter related to equity, whereby it was argued that a trustee had an active role in the administration of the use to the property, then it did not follow under the jurisdiction of common law, but rather the jurisdiction of equity. And I'll put there government and then stroke parliament, because you've got to look at who's looking at managing property that doesn't own it. Yeah, the government and the parliament, they manage property, but they don't actually own it. So the agencies that are employed, the police are an agency. They're working with partnership. All right, there's bolted up there, and they've got various agencies, health agencies, Department for Education, Health, Finance, Work. They're all agencies, all right. So we have agency relationships in these agreements that are constructed, is what I want to hammer in there. Equity is the law which gave rights to the user. So to compel the trustee to act, if the trustee was acting in bad faith, like a PM or a secretary or a minister that's subject to, and we call that mala fides, within this relation to an agreement to property rights, real or personal, they will be termed herediments. No one under equity can control both legal and equitable title. Okay, this matter is only noticed in common law. In common law, you can own something, and you can, you can hold. Let me think. What is it? Legal and equitable. You can own something, and you can be legally responsible for it in common law. But within the rules and the governance of equity, not trust, but the rulings, like the infrastructure that helps govern trust. When you create a trust, equity automatically appears to govern it. It's just something that comes with the expression of a trust or the creation. So once a trust is created, equity is the management of the trust and the triangle and the res and the property. So no one under equity can control both legal and equitable title. This matter is only noticed in common law. So in this scenario, government would equal legal title and citizens going to equal equitable title. So all those claiming rights under a constitution, you are only establishing a right to be heard as an agent to the trustee and beneficial user to the property, which is held in a trust for and on behalf of the settlor, the true owner to the res property in that trust. The government was given a duty to have the right to create laws that regulated their role as trustee. This is formed under a constitution that was established initially under a letters patent to exist as such. The government operating under this obligation created agents who are endowed with ministerial tasks and are called citizens. And citizens are recognised as such when an infant creates an express trust via an agreement through the signing of any application using birth certificate, your legal person. We say the second coming of Jesus Christ there, perhaps. So thus the citizen remains an infant, a ward, who is without the legal title and the rights of common law and the motherland, mass terra firma here. They are lawless under the common law of the land and made legal under the laws of equity, to be fair, if you really analyse it. So anyone who is attempting to use any codes, acts, statutes, case law, ordinances, etc., those rules of law that are for greater certainty established under a government, then you are seen to be agreeing to equity law and the power that comes only through a use to property and not an absolute right of ownership and possession. So we have to look at the droit, the unidroit, and the Liber codes, as well as various other things we've brought to you as we go forwards. But this is argumentation that I'm giving to you here about the rights and the governances and the constitutional areas there of what you take for, because common law, in the common law guidance book, which is the civil procedure rules, we found equity hidden within section 7 of the common law. So equity in some legal, a person is mentioned within equity. Equity uses legal instruments. It doesn't use the man as such. Here is why I want to just continue on with this. So, we got an excerpt here of English system of law. I'd like to talk about the English law that shaped and carved English law into what it is today. We're going to look at correcting the different beliefs that people currently hold about what the English system of law actually is. I'm afraid, we're going to help iron out and re-established avenues and access points of which have been shut off and forgotten. How the government and the monarchy established the power and the authority that they enforce with the force of law and the police force today. We're going to show what real rights are and how one can obtain this without forcing anything onto another individual living under natural law, until, of course, those individuals make agreements that they are both aware of and agree to knowingly with disclosure to between themselves. And there's a word here, villani, like we've got arrest and where arrest came from and person, and we look at certain words. Well, a villain, well, this is going to be because of the word villain, but villani is the word I'm speaking of here. And villani, the cotterel, and the servi, servi, mentioned in the questions asked in the Doomsday Commission, well, by the Doomsday Commissioners, probably represent roughly and only roughly the dependent classes whose labour cultivated the Lord's manor. No question was asked as to the extent of their holdings, as in the case of the freeman and the soshmani, and that is Sochemani, soshmani. We can see that the slaves of Anglo-Saxon law are indeed still known to the law. They are sharply distinguished from even the poorest villanus or cotterus, and that is Cottararius. In fact, the villanus of Doomsday might be a man of property. We are far as yet from the legal doctrines which will make the villain a serf, which will, while in some respects assimilating him to a slave, admit that he has public duties and that he is free as against all except his lord. No doubt the conquest between the process which degrading the villain on the one hand and raising the slave on the other created the peculiar villain status of later law. The process has not yet gone far. We still see in Doomsday the old distinctions of ranks of many, of which were destined to disappear before the generalisation of royal justice. And this is an excerpt from A History of English Law, Volume 2, page 167, by Holdsworth William Searle, Sir, 1871 to 1944. It's just words like when we do the etymological root finding and discovery, it isn't just on YouTube videos and on a whim. When we dig, we go digging, don't we, Kev?
Indeed.
So
we got tools, we got shovels.
You got dirty fingernails, I know that, and mucky knees. An overview. All law is based on what? On territory, on land. Territory is the control over an area of land. It's down to occupying. Could you be the legal occupier, of this, a war, military? Are you occupying this address, this land, occupation, occupy? So territory is the control over an area of land founded upon the legal principles found in the private international law. From this gift of land, each individual within English law creates a trust. Once something is put into a trust, the one acting as trustee is now the vested owner and in possession of the trust. The original grantor is no longer in possession, nor does the grantor have an immediate right to what was given in that trust. A trust is an equitable obligation for the benefit of persons known as beneficiaries. A legal trust, that is, an ecclesia trust, that would be, So stick with me. A trust is an equitable obligation that binds a trustee to deal with property owned by him. A trust property for the benefit of persons known as beneficiaries, of whom he may be one, and anyone who may enforce the obligation or for the furtherance of certain purposes, such as charitable purposes. In English law, lands are described as herediments, and that's a weird word to me. H-E-R-E here, D-I-T-A, and then M-E-N-T-S, ments. So here, dit at ments, herediments. And my impediment makes it hard for me to say herediment with my impediment. So I just thought I'd take some time on that word. And further broken down into two categories. So in English law, lands are described as herediments, and they're broken down into two categories. Corporeal, not as in corporal sergeant major, but corporeal herediments, land, and incorporeal herediments. So, okay, so everything annexed to those lands, yet not the lands themselves. Everything that is incorporeal is fictional. Okay, I'll explain it, and only exists within the English law jurisdiction of equity. It is not real, all right? So a person is fictional and only exists within the English law. It's your data self. It is not real, but we're starting to separate, you see, not just the laws, but with the separating of the instrument and the instruments and where we're going. Without the quantum and the alignment there. So the Doomsday Book, you hear me talk about this, and 1066 and 1300s, it's a long time ago. 1066 is nearly 1,000 years. We're going to be celebrating an anniversary and in 46 years, yes, is that right? So here we go, the Doomsday Book, and I've mentioned it, took the mick out of it. What is it, like a book at the end of the world where they reference and go, right, how many souls did we lose on that one? The Doomsday Book, it gave King William the first ability to create the law for all those who became the subject within territory he claimed as his kingdom. So it is the owner of the land that makes the law of the land for all those that live within its territorial borders. And it was not until the Magna Carta of 1215, common law constitution will say, that the monarchy's common law policy makers, witnessed by the Roman Church, the Vatican, Francis Assisi, the Bulla Papil masterman, created the law to force the monarch to follow the laws that were in force previous to King William's usurpation, meaning any new laws created that had not replaced the older common laws were then still in force. In other words, any laws which were not repealed within the jurisdiction they represent still had the force and effect of law. And we got a lot we can expand upon that later on. I'm just wetting your ears, all right? Although it forced the present king, which was King John at the time, to follow all the laws recognising the Lord Manners and Magna Carta, all laws are written for legal entities, so to manage the citizens of the realm or those living within the claimed territory of the king as residents and serfs. Each land tenure system granted rights and delegated duties in order that an appointed group of landlords, lords, earls and barons would be able to manage the land. They were enfeoffed, E-N-F-E-O-F-F-E-D, enfeoffed, to govern with a common set of house rules. The Lord Manors managed the feudal land tenure, like on the television show Game of Thrones, just in case you...
Never seen it.
On behalf of the monarchy, each land tenure was also annexed to a tenure of service in public office as the King's Great Council, which was then regulated by a Cura Regis. Very important, you all check these two words out. C-U-R-I-A is one word, Curia, and then Regis, R-E-G-I-S. that acted as the judicial body so to ensure the enforcement of fealty laws, Fealty, fealty, between the landlords and the king. They were formally recognised. The feudal land tenure system, that seems to date from 1086 to the statute Mortmain. And I think of mortgage and mortality, mort and main, but it's one word, Mortmain, in 1279. The ancient land tenure system is the period when the rights and duties, including the burden of holding a seat in the King's Great Council, holding a seat. Well, how long do you have to hold that for? Is it heavy? What's it made of? Of the Lord Manors were given to the church, and whereby the Lord Manors lost their managing duties to the land tenure as a result. The ancient land tenure and statute Mortmain gave rise to the Cester KV Trust via the creation of the concept of corporations, which technically kind of can live on forever. All right, if not formally dissolved, that is, they will continue on, as a continuum until somebody does something. They don't biologically die. In order to manage your data self, it can live on, it will outlive you. In order to manage the land trust by a set of laws for the group. So let's just rewind, because I just dropped a bomb there. The ancient land tenure and statute Mortmain gave rise to the what? To the Cest KV Trust. Well, the papacy gave rise to it, and the proclamations of the Unum Sanctum, and we're going to get deeper into this. But over here, with the incorporations of the systems, just bear with me, and you will see what's going to happen. So the ancient land tenure and statute Mortmain gave rise to the CQV, or the Cest K Trust. It was actually the Cest K Trust.
Yeah.
Not the
That's right.
Cest KV. I'm saying Cest KV. No, I'm saying Cest K on this occasion. Trust. Yeah. That's it. Via the creation of the concept of corporations, which technically can and do live on forever, if not formally dissolved, in order to manage the land trust by a set of laws for the groups. The creation of the concept of corporations was to invoke a standard set of laws, rules, and policies into this corporate entity that would exist in perpetuity, or perpetuity, perpetually is the word, but it's perpetuity.
Forever.
Perpetuity, yeah. So these laws would then be handed down from person to person, unimpeded by the death of the current human facilitators. The Statute of Mortmain was created by the monarchy, Edward I, in order to prevent the transfer of land into a use for and on behalf of the church. You see the church and the state battle. See, who's got bigger ballocks here then? Before its decree, landlords were transferring their legal titles into the church so to avoid incidents, taxes in brackets, okay, and conveyancing laws which were noticed upon their deaths. After this act, Statute Mortmain was established. Next came the creation of the Cester K Trust, a fictional entity, all right? That's the Cester K from the Cester KV. It's a fictional entity. And the Cester KV is something else. It's not just the Cester KV. There's a Cester K and then there's a Cester KV. And the Cester K is a fictional entity, your data self, straw man, etc. So that's an agreement between landlord and church to operate. Not, on this description here, though, it's an agreement. Where did we go? We've gone back in time, haven't we? We're not in 2020 as I speak now. To operate as legal title holder to the current land tenure. A fictional entity accepting the laws of the land tenure meant that without a real physical, in real life we say, death ever occurring, even through the physical body, the subject doesn't in fact die. The lands remained in the trust forever, therefore removing the right of the monarchy to receive their incidents from those lands, taxes, and additionally avoided many of the rules of common law conveyancing, when I said about rights and ownership and things and differences with trust and where it is and who owns and the common law. This action regulated the use of the land tenure so no taxes could be charged or rights of conveyancing be noticed on them. In 1535, the modern land tenure system emerged so to regulate uses which first removed the Roman Church's corporate authority over the group trust. King Henry 5, 6, 7, 8, the 8th, seized all the Roman Church holdings so to gain control once more of the monarchy's previous prerogative. This was accomplished through an agreement with Parliament, formerly part of the King's Great Council, called the Statute of Uses. The monarchy managed to transfer these corporate rights into local and national governments, whom they originally created through the evolution of the original land tenure system beginning in 1066. All powers and uses, that's why I say it's land tenure 1066, William the Conqueror, Doomsday Book, and certain things, Normandy, Anglo-Normandy, Anglo-Saxon, and then he just he did all that work, and then he just suddenly got a cold and died, I think. I don't know, but bless it, he did a lot of graft, that lad, and there's a messy line of history that we need to, just try and straighten out here. And these kings and stuff that are coming in, the Queen and so forth, the Vatican, the Fed, the Bank of England, it's all kind of relevant in the theme of things. So where did I get to? In 1066, all powers of the uses and trusts that existed in the Cess Decay Trust were to now be administered, registered and managed. All land interests by this new group authority. So they busted a move there that we're going to elaborate on extensively in the next 6 months.
The cartel begins.
Yeah. The Great Revolution, a movement causing the Bill of Rights to be created. You might remember and recall the time in history. Transferred power from the grip of the monarchy into the hands of the people, apparently, through the authority established in Parliament, government. It was not until 1688 that a new monarchy was appointed by the government, made up of the people, who had in turn been granted a right, a use for a fee as legal trustees to the lands in fee simple. These changes corrected the common law issue of the monarchy, which until then was still branded with the stigma of once stealing the lands from the people, 1066 Anno Domini CE. Although it may be good to point out that this parliament was birthed originally from the King's Great Council, so was still connected to the unlawful usurpation in the 1066 AD. This new arrangement, given to the monarchy by the people, appointed the monarch as trustee in order to perform these duties granted on behalf of this trust title. QE2, Queen Elizabeth II, currently holds that now, not Elizabeth, etc.
Allegedly.
Although not appointed by anyone with true authority, as we find out later in history. The reason for having to appoint a new monarchy was because only a monarchy could create English common law, a right that could, hear me out loosely, it's for the purposes of this examination, if he was to be able to have the authoritative power. Common law can be argued in many ways, but as a national outlay of a system of governance and reprehension and management and respect, then to some extent it is kind of right that a monarchy could only manage and oversee, like the church can only manage and oversee religion. You could argue any group could, but on a national mainstream narrative, the British Broadcasting Corporation manage the telling of the future by telling you buildings have collapsed before they actually have. So and political propaganda, that's how it is.
While said buildings in the very background of the report.
Lest we forget. So off we go again. Who knew that Russell Grant went into the news? Only a monarchy could create English common law, a right that could never be established in government, for instance, as the government was created from the common law as an administrator of use and was enacted through a right exercised initially from the throne, as the statute of uses was only for the first level of use. There was no administrative law so to allow the subjects to act as fee simple owners to sale, lease or mortgage lands and thus profit equitably from the land's use. So until the sale, lease, mortgage, land laws were created, no change occurred. Everything was stuck through this allegedly. You can imagine, obviously it wasn't. People can still buy and sell, but legally and lawfully, everything is, because they want to grab tax and monitor, track, trace, and all of this that they're doing still now. This was because we could have obviously written bills of, a bill of sale out and exchanged deeds and money and got witnesses and still still traded. It's just that they couldn't legally, lawfully, steal, monitor, register, manage, and make a note of. So they closed doors on us. If you look throughout the continuum of history, we keep getting doors closed and more taxes needed, because initially you'd pay tax to help the king go to war, and you'd all bail out the king so we could go and profit in the winnings of, and it was kind of a different game, argumentatively, back then compared to how it is now, where we pay the taxes in different ways to the monarchies and kings and banks. So it is all, relatively, it interests me. We're getting to the end. The new monarchy was needed to create, where are we going here then? So profit, slaves of, so you can't profit through the lands created. No change occurred through this appointment. The people within the territory were essentially acting as serfs, slaves of feudal times. The new monarchy was needed to create law for the governments in order for them to administer as much of the trusts as possible, sale, lease, mortgage and lands, and thus act in the capacity of sovereigns. Parliamentary sovereignty is what we hear. Capital gains, investments, agencies, management of. So if you see where we are, where is government? What is the actual government building? The House of Lords, the House of Commons, Parliament buildings? Is it the Queen's Buckingham residence? Is it somewhere else? Is it the House of whatever? Is it one of the Masonic church temples? Where is government? Who is it? What is it? We have a Prime Minister and we have Lords of the Treasuries, but they're just sections doing jobs, the businesses, as we found out, and these laws and governments and this parliamentary sovereignty is bullshit. So, the real importance of land shows up when one looks at the Land Settlement Act of the 1700s now. This act is the grant and the rules of land settlement, which is the first step to the government acting as administrative sovereign, a land trust company, to be fair. Remember in the Bible, where did Adam come from? He come from the land, and Eve was made by the rib. So just hold that thought, from the land registry, to be able to make laws for its subject lands in those use, with those a use of lands in a trust, basically. So the next addition was the Settle Lands Act. The act created a tacit trust of lands which originated from the Settlement Act of 1700s, thereby granting its force and effect not by terminating the prior settlement lands agreement. We can look at this idea when compared to the sequence of events that had to occur in order for the government to establish its right to rule over the land trust, i.e. the monarchy held this right as does the Settlement Act to enact the rights for the land trust to operate. Allowing the Settled Land Agreements next allowed for the Settled Estates Act to have force and effect, which ratifies what was granted and states how the lands in trust must be managed. This act in turn created the need for the law of property. Look at it go. Property signifies the lands held in trust and the right as the trustee to them. If one had purchased a land use right, you purchased a land use right. No, I'm sorry, have you got a land use right there at Hall Pass for the field? What? Yes, exactly. Once you had purchased lands, you could then become subject to claim by anyone that refuted the Settled Estates Act. And thus, my fist and my mates and my missus will tell you different, but obviously a ticket and a number, is another way. So, have you seen me, dogs? Look at what we've given up for. I've got a ticket. I'm gonna report you. He's not living in fear, and he's on my field. Here's my ticket. So, Settled Estate Acts and thus claims the land you purchase via a superior. We used to have guns, did we not? By the way, everyone as well, via superior right or claim. I'll shoot your ass. So, every person receives at birth a domicile, technically known among modern jurists as domicile of origin, says Lord should I say it? I'll give it you. Says Lord Westbury in Udny, UDNY versus UDNY. Udny versus Udny. It is a settled principle that no man shall be without a domicile And to secure this result, the law attributes to every individual, as soon as it says he, but we'll change that to they are born. As soon as they are born, the domicile of his father, if the child be, that's so you get your domicile of your father, if the child be legitimate, and the domicile of the mother if illegitimate. This has been called the domicile of origin and is involuntary. Okay, we have seen that the origio is just Origo, okay, Origo, and domicilium in the Roman law were distinct ideas, and the collation of them in the phrase domicilium originis would have implied a contradiction. So we have an infant act, all right, alongside birth certificates to look at, and dates and times, and certain things that we're looking at, along with monarchies and acts and registration, regis. The Infant Act was put in place to exempt and protect one from certain agreements made by the acceptance of the Settled Land Acts to protect one's rights until they became of age to make agreements for themselves and vest their inherent interests. So if you had some land and you was little, it was looked after, it looks like. It's nice of them, isn't it? They do it because they love us.
Yeah.
By not ending the protection offered in the Infant Act, by the time one reached the territory, that's age of consent, so it's known as territory. By the time one reached the territory, age of consent, we call it age of majority, but they've said here territory. And subsequently thereafter, the inaction to vest one's rights was in turn construed to be an acceptance to the laws established within a territory governed by a municipal corporation. The territory English law claimed as lands belonging to the beneficiaries of the settled estates. This inaction created what is commonly known as the life tenant. Wow, which regards this position in municipal law as trustee, acting not in one's own right, but in right of a municipal corporation, person, agent. The beneficiary of the unclaimed settled estates is the monarchy and the governments. However, in trust law, it is recognised that if a trust was never intended to be created, so as a result, the law assumes that the settlor had fulfilled its intent through the acts it created, and so accepts the settlor as the beneficiary. We use the written fact of law abstract as chain of title to prove how we are the settler to lands held in trust. See the Lieber Code, the Unidroit Agreement, the Treaty of Verona, Lisbon, Maastricht, to name a few, and look at the untimely death of William the Conqueror. I'm going to leave that there for you, and then I've got another little thing about the Duke of Westminster on the .com being. I just want to read you his title because it doesn't. It's random that I found this. The Major General Gerald Cavendish Grosvenor. He's the 6th Duke of Westminster, and after his name, he's got Kilo Golf, he's got Charlie Bravo, he's got Oscar Bravo Echo OBE. I got that one. TD and DL. So he's got a lot there. He's a Duke in the robes of a Knight of the Garter as well.
That's the KG bit, yeah.
He rolls deep, this man. The Duchy of Lancaster is the duchy stolen by the Crown Temple and appointed to the presiding monarch. Today, the Queen's own, as a prerequisite to breaking down the secret networks behind the implementation of a corporation. Today, it's got a lot of stuff here. Let me just read to the Duke of Westminster's clan. No, I need to go down to, yeah, that'll do. The Duke of Westminster's clan is very active in the county of Lancashire. After securing lands within the Forest of Bowland, the Duke of the Grosvenor House, as such, is also a member of the House of Windsor and also connected to the Russian Bolshevik families and via the American Smith Sons. That's right, Smith Sons. He has a huge American power base currently behind the lobbying for the implementation of this at the time of that this was written. Police and crime commissioners across the UK. This is not live, up-to-date news, but just let me introduce the Duke for you. now done a deal which gives the corporate realm complete control over the policing of Britain under corporate policy. Oh, really? Administered directly from the United Nations Security Council. So when we're talking international, let me just rewind that, and you see how this is how I found him by accident. When I say I accidentally found this man, but he's looking. Where is he? He has a huge American base. Currently behind the lobbying for the implementation of police and crime commissioners. That would be Cressida Dick to us then, wouldn't it? There's one that you know the name of for the rank and file Met officers across the UK. He's now done a deal, this was at the time of the post, not live data, alright, which gives the corporate realm, that's right, the businesses, aren't they, complete control over the policing of Britain. Not England, not the UK, not Great Britain, not the Commonwealth, but Britain, under corporate policy, administered directly from where, did you say, Dave? I said from the United Nations Security Council as NATO. Do you think they're going to listen to Three Dots? Do you really? That's all I can say.
Yeah, look at that. How powerful is that?
Let me just readjust the camera. It seems to have... Right, 1 minute, Kev. Let me just set the system up. Here we go. Yeah, so there's some Barry Big Ball out there then, isn't there, lad? The NATO, let us keep in mind that as corporate candidates together, they have shifted policing in a manner outside the constitutional realm, which you've all noticed, which governs the police service under oath. The police, my brothers and sisters and family, initiates and scribes, they no longer service the law, as we can prove. The Duke of Westminster, being of the Grosvenor bloodline, throws up a couple of pointers to the fact the US establishment are the secret branch of the Order of the Garter, a fact hidden well through the overwhelming membership across the pond to the Scottish Rite Freemasonry. As such, the entire US network is kept off the official records, and the US is seen by many as a separate power base to that of the Order and its European and Asian families. Don't forget about them. The Grosvenor bloodline is of the mighty Percy family of Northumbria, which offers an insight into the origins of the Bush family in the US, who were also of the Percy bloodline. This is not my work, allegedly. I need to confirm, alright? The fleecing, I'm getting to the bit that I need. The fleecing Percys were in fact those known to be the plotters behind the gunpowder plot. Well, I found the Astor's family mixed up in some of that as well. So, I'll throw that in. In England, allowing the Crown to become licensed by Rome to be the administrator of dead souls, or the dead trust referenced in the birth certificate that incorporates your Christian name with a surname. Here we go. Until 1604, this position was held by Spain and was handed back to Spain and the King of Jerusalem, King Juan Carlos, back in 1975, my son. So as I'm looking for certain things about police and orders and that, it brought me the Duke, and when I'm reading about the Duke, I find out by accident about the police and the connections and the bloodlines and Spains and kings, and I accidentally stumbled upon that. But you got the Order of the Garter to make a note of there, if you've never heard of those. The American Grosvenors, you've all seen Hotel Grosvenor Hotel, haven't you? You've all seen a Grosvenor or something at some point in time. They're big, they're everywhere, they're worldwide. Prestige worldwide, They got boats and everything. So, there's a lot here that I've got into the Bushes and the American connections and drifting off point. But I've read what I wanted to read for the, opening with my gappy front tooth. But I do hope that you like the acts and the certain history. There's a lot of history there, weren't there? There's a lot of dates. There's a lot for you to chew on. Look at your Constitution, look at your Magna Carta, look at your international, and it ended with NATO. I pulled the big guns out at the end, all right, to give you thinkers out there. I want you to really chew on these recent videos and outlays that we're doing, and the documents you're about to get will have all of this and sources in and references. You don't need to remember it or make notes, and we'll publish what we're talking about here and give you the guts of the deal. So England law police, dukes, monarchies, churches. It's still the same old, same old. All I've done is opened up a little bit of the area that was, shall we say, a bit foggy, yeah? I'm open to correction and amendment as well, may I just say. That's not all going to stay as it is. So, yeah, I'll yield, Kevin. We'll have a look in the room, lad.
Oh, let's have a look in room.
At the neighbours.
Josh, Jerry, Quinn, evening. What is this world? Evening. Coral, Lux. Just me. Hello, Kev. Oh, hello, Kev.
I'll see you, Joe.
Lisa, hello Lisa, how are you? Nice to see you. Everything's good for you. Cleveland.
Yeah, busy. Menza. I see Menza down there.
Andy, Mr. Greg, how you doing, mate? Nice to see you. Hope you're all right. Certified. I think. Oh, Mr. Menson. Good evening. Yeah, there's a bit of chat going on in there, mate.
Yeah, sorry for not around. We weren't around last night. We cancelled because we run over on the .com. Then we have a bit of an after chat and a balance up of what had happened, and we had a few heads over 5 under 10 to chat to last night for 90 minutes, and then by the time we collated it, I thought I can't read all this out at 12 o'clock at night with my mouth still throbbing, and the whole, this, the impediment, and then the time it was, we said, didn't we, we'll come on tonight, and it will go down better. Yeah, you got anything you want to say then, Kev? Is there anything in the room you've seen? Is there any questions? Are we all right?
I've just seen what is this world just said, why do I sound like I'm in another room?
I'm turning him up.
Probably because I'm on a loudspeaker on Dave's phone that's then coming through to you.
And the volume was turned down and the speaker was arse about.
Oh, there you go. Dave ruined it.
I've just deafened.
That's what that means.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry, thank you for that. What in this world for the audio check? I failed there. I failed. We sorted it. You all just got deafened.
I didn't know what I sounded like. I can't listen to myself. Why forget feedback? No, you were mentioning just before we came on, Dave. You were mentioning about the sanctions returning.
Yeah, DWP. I've got some links here. I've got some Birmingham Mail 7 hours ago. Just because I've done a search and it was one of the most current stories there. So, like the BBC making pensioners pay for license. These corporations don't have a soul. They don't have a heart. They don't have discretion as such unless the government orders it. So there's been a report into Universal Credit that's taking 11 weeks or more is the first blow. And then the next blow is that the DWP have confirmed that they're going to resume sanctions. That was some time ago, and a week or so ago they're starting to hammer down again the collections with they call it is it a customer agreement commitment, the service user commitment, or the customer commitments are being reintegrated. So we're getting questions on that again to it's been adapted because of the coronavirus pandemic or the current pandemic. They've not collected, so now they're reintegrating the collections again. And there's been a lot of, not just in our emails and in the .com, but there's been a lot of national backlash saying it's not right to and Rishi Sunak's come out now and done his summer statement, hasn't he, to try and help out. And I think they've taken a bit of a battering. Ministers and the Department for Work and Pensions, Parliament questions. It was Theresa Coffey that I saw being questioned on extending the sanction rules. As I think it was Jonathan, somebody, Reynolds, don't quote me, was asking it's important, or he was saying it was important to recognise that the credit, look at that, not money but credit they have been processing in this crisis is a considerably different product to usual. You know, I'm like, look at that, it's a different product to usual. It's not, wow, how they speak. Yeah, those were his
Yeah.
words. I can clearly, if you search for it, you'll find it. And in particular, all sanctions and conditions, or conditionality might have been his words, have been temporarily suspended. And the suspension has allegedly ended. So we've got the government, East Midlands, London, Scotland, Northern Ireland. It's not good that we've got mass panic everywhere that the money isn't going to cut it. Mums and dads giving up assets, sons and daughters for adoption. So what do we say about all this, Kev?
There's lots of options. But yeah, listen, I personally haven't had a lot of dealings with UC, and we haven't had many people come to us with it, but it's not something, it's not a daunting prospect at all. So same again, not just for assessments. If anybody is in that situation and getting any issues, please come forward and let us know, because it's all the same thing. It's all about rules and regs, and that's what we'll pull them apart. So don't suffer in silence. But I say, not had a lot of dealings. So I know people that are on it, but and they've had some aggro, but I don't know anybody sort of under sanction for it for any particular reason. But it'll be no different to the other stuff we do, particularly. It'd just be a case of having a look at what they're asking, what they've disclosed, etc., and pulling them up there. So, but yeah, it doesn't surprise me they're coming back, because it's all about the book fiddling. So they've got to get a few people off so they can shift that money they've allegedly saved into some other department somewhere else and make that one look good. That's all it's about. They've got to get the sanctions going. That's how the money's moved around to make everything look like it's working.
I've got some times claimants waiting a minimum of 5 weeks for their first payment of universal credit. The benefits universal credit were paid as soon as the claim was processed, with targets between 5 days income support and 22 days tax credits. The wait can be eased by claiming an advance of up to 100% of the first estimated payment. That advance is typically received within 7 days. But they're saying that the National Audit Office said the initial 5-week wait can exacerbate claimants' debt and financial difficulties.
Yeah.
5 weeks, man. They can send money.
That's if you're lucky, mate. 5 weeks.
No, but this article is saying it's up to 11 weeks. So the National Audit Office has been called in to kick some butts. And despite the availability of advances, claimants and representative organisations that responded to our consultation told us that the wait for the first payment caused financial hardship and debt. Research by the Trussell Trust found that universal credit is one of the reasons behind the increasing use of food banks, within 27 additional food parcels distributed for every 100 claimants on universal credit rather than legacy benefits. The Trust's recent research found that 27% said they attended a food bank because of a long wait for universal credit. So it's it's really, really bad. I've got some numbers here. In 113,000 claims were not paid in full and on time. Out of 162,000 claims, 113,000 were not paid in full and on time. This increased to 226,000 in 2018 and 312 claims in 2019. In 2019, claimants who were not paid on time faced average delays of 3 weeks in addition to the 5-week wait. Alarmingly, around 6% of households, 105,000 new claims, waited 11 weeks or more for full payment. So That's shocking. When they
Yeah,
when they high frequency market trade on stock markets and send and what we've found what they do and the vehicles that they have and how they can manage stuff. It's disgusting that you have to wait that amount of time to get
yeah.
something a credit that you create from the agents that we've employed to benefit us. You see, madness. Go on, bro.
Can I just jump in the room a sec?
Yeah.
Andy Greggs is just saying in here that he can confirm not not mandatory from a 100% reliable source. He goes on to say they had a phone call with the DWP stroke Maximus, and Andy had a chat with him before, and he's going to get over and see him and get the full story. But yeah, as I say, they can't deny it, because if they say it can't be mandatory to hand your health away. As I say, it's the two questions. If you're lucky enough to get them to confirm it on the first, brilliant. Then that's it. There's no, then you just literally, they say, yeah, it's not mandatory. You say, well, look, I'm more than happy to be assessed. As soon as you get the rightly qualified people, contact me when you have. Thank you very much. Goodbye. End of. You're still in honour. But as I say, some people, they're still saying, no, yeah, it is mandatory. And then, of course, the second question gets it. But no, that's brilliant, Andy. And I'm glad you passed the knowledge on, and I hope he passes it on in course and help somebody else out. That is exactly what it's there for. It's just become incredibly simplified recently. Still do the conditional acceptance if you want, so you're remaining in honour, but then just those two questions, really. But well done, mate. I'm glad you've helped somebody out. That's what it's all about. Fair play to you, brother.
And that's how easy it is. It's not about keeping it secret. It's not about locking it up or charging, money for every little bit of information that we can pass out there. It's about we want to give. We want you to trust us, and we want to earn your respect. And whichever which way we can, we will give you the information. And Kevin has come along with ideas, and with Graham. And this isn't my work. This is just a family thing. And if you coming back and saying stuff like that, you listened, you took note, and we can get the feedback. That's something that money can't buy. That's magic. That is, as Paul used to say. Hey up, man.
As I say, if
Well
you think
done.
about
Kudos.
it, it's that.
Well done.
Yeah, no, brilliantly well. That's what it's all for. As I say, Andy came on the journey with like the original conditional acceptance stuff. So the mandatory or not mandatory stuff that's the latest evolution, the latest info we have, and it actually turns out to be the two most important questions. The rest of it is superfluous, really. Ultimately, it's still powerful and puts them on the spot, but those two questions are it now. You just can't be expected to hand your medical health care away from doctors and consultants to unqualified idiots. That's as simple as that. You cannot be expected to do that. And if that is what they expect you to do, then you want to see the insurance in case these people overturn your medical evidence and your medical certificate and cause you injury. Simple as that. Show it to me then, and I'll go and see them. But of course, they won't be able to show it to you. So it's the kiss. This is the beginning of the end for those firms. If only enough people would get on this. Maximus, Capita, Atos, gone, finished. All over. This is how powerful that is. It's done them. And as I say, any sanctions you get after saying this, it has to be malicious, because what we told them is fact. But if they go ahead and sanction you after you've used those two questions, then you've got a case against them. Malicious, cannot be anything but. So, as I say, this is the kiss of death to them, which is what we always thought it was. It's just we've now funneled it down, and just through investigation and asking the right questions and looking at lots of cases, that recent cases, and discovering shit. Simple as that. So no, fair play. As I say, more people just used it. Nobody's refusing to be assessed. We just want to be assessed properly by medically qualified people that have already assessed us and found us to be unfit for work. And in some cases, obviously, that is more than just unfit. Severe disabilities, bedridden, you name it. So that's all we're asking for is fairness, and that's what they don't want to give us, because they won't, basically, ultimately, they won't be able to sanction anybody.
We need
They
to
can't
get
assess you.
we need to get on top of this, because there's allegedly, approximately, in the worst case scenario, but probably it might be a best case scenario. Knowing these lot and the way that they count and their numbers and their tests and their kits and their gloves and aeroplanes and Turkey, the way that they've handled this has been nothing but a shambolic, display of their inadequacy, their competences, only competent to mess things up. So we got 500,000 possible mental health new cases coming, 500,000, and sanctioning coming back in, and the way that the eradication of the middle class effectively is what's kind of looked like it's the by effect, or maybe the main effect of all of this. The shops, the businesses, the agencies, they're bailing out the arts, and they're bailing out the actors and the ones that need or they're going to go under, and they bail out man afterwards. So where they if I may just go back to they asked for equipment from Turkey. A plane turned up and the equipment was substandard, so they couldn't use it. It wasn't up to standard. They got some masks brought in and they were all out of date, but then they checked them and said you can wear them, didn't they? And they were all right to use for the health department because they weren't supplying PPE, and then when they did, it was out of date. The plane from Turkey wasn't good enough quality standards, to be fair. Then they said public don't need to wear masks, it's all right, we just need them for the doctors and nurses. Then they said send the old people home from hospital to the care homes and they will be all right, we'll use them as holding grounds. And they were like, but they'll affect everybody else. And they're like, yeah, well, we don't want it, and you can have it back, kind of a scenario. There were questions raised, and Boris's recent crass comments on care homes and whatnot. Then we had you might want to wear masks outside, even though we said you don't really might want to need to. Perhaps you should. And then they've made the standard higher of the masks, and those masks that they got that were out of date, that they examined and said you could wear, they've now banned their masks and said you need higher grade masks. You couldn't make this shit up. Holy Lord. And it's just, I couldn't make it up. The three monkeys there that go out and test their eyesight by driving an iron horsey says it all to me. We've lost trust in this lot. We've lost the faith. We've lost the trust. There is no wisdom. There is no I don't know what this is. I think they're in that much in debt. I think what they've got to do is bust a move and get these vaccinations and things churning so their friends can make some money. I think they're after furnishing pockets again here, because it seems that shambolic. I wouldn't trust these lot with I don't know, an animal, let alone human life. So I'll leave it there. We've had nothing but a shambolic display, a shambolic performance, and backtracking, and 200 scientists approaching the World Health Organization saying about these droplets and the spreading of and what you're claiming. Are you sure about that? 200 scientists have said we're not. So that's not us. Again. These recommendations that I talked about with the police and so forth, and David Lammy there, and what was going on. People make noise and we do stuff, but then nothing ever happens. Have you noticed? It's like they just wand us with the Men in Black wand, and we go to sleep and get up and we carry on, don't we? It's like, be alright, Joe.
All come out in the wash.
China has had like state laws passed and things. We've got the eye on China with that, and the kind of corporation and corporative rule. The police do not service the law, they service rule, and they're not legally trained. So how are the police managed in a legal business, but then they're managing the law? What are they? Are they administrators for corporations, or are they constables of law? There's obviously most of them are administrators for corporations. It's very seldom we see, you know, when a real crime happens. I bet it's quite a novelty for the officers of these corporations, because a real crime, you know, we see a lot of civil issues going down, which is they're effectively becoming auditors and not servicing the law at all in any way. And if you're out there doing a legal job and you're not legally trained, you might want to come and have a chat with us, and we'd like to talk to you about how your government has set you up. Your employer, you know, has basically put you in a legal job but not giving you any legal. You're trained in policy and you know how to manage the rules of the police. You may know about acts and statutes, but do you know other things that you will need to know to stop you getting a commercial lien in the worst instance and losing your entire livelihood, you know, by a silly mistake that could end up damaging somebody? And if you do not listen and you damage somebody who's, you force them out of the private into the public, and whatever else happens later on, you know, it's a sorry state of affairs when they enforce acts and statute, and we can show, you know, and this is another area of separation, which is why I started off the video with what are the topics and the information I did. We're going to expand and encompass and get these, I don't know, instruments, data cells, all sorted out so you can have your choice. And you've heard me say the human rights has got, and I've said this for a good year or so, that the human rights has got a clause in it. If they didn't have a slavery clause, then when we catch them out, for it, and we go and shout from the rooftops and sing it to Hosanna, okay, over the mountains and everywhere, that we found them out and we're telling on them, yeah. If they didn't put a slavery clause in, then guess what? They would be slavery, international crimes, more so than what they are able to be claimed now. So because the human rights says that you are able to not be recognised as a person in front of the law, then that's the thing that I've been going on about, that Claudio has picked up upon with the introduction of NATO at the end of that previous paragraph. It shows you what kind of environment we're rolling with.
Rolling with the demons.
It's changing. It's an ever changing face. Renaissance is science, language, religion, law,
jurisdictions,
self-consciousness, technology. We're moving on with it, and if you don't move, then you get left behind. The public, the private. So your status, let's recap that. Your status is what we're going to iron out, and then going forward with the second tier of the Masters Guild. And you've got a status of public, or you've got a status of private. We've had a summer statement, you know, a statement. You can put your status on Facebook. Banks give you statements. You get a statement from, suppliers of certain things. So this is your status, and you'll be public or you'll be private. Your standing. How do you stand? Do you stand as the defendant, or are we not the defendant? We are a party, and what is your standing here today? Defendant, agent, layman, etc. Or you could be trustee, you could be set law grantor, you could be beneficiary in that kind of a standing. You know, what's your standing at law is what I'm referring to when we say that. And then lastly, your capacity. What capacity have you got? Legal? Have you got law? Have you got man? Have you got legal person? Have you got natural person? So you've got to incorporate always your status, standing and capacities. This is going to be fun. It really is going to be a nice way to give you the strength, give you things that you need, and you can then utilise that to your advantage, should you wish to. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll laugh and say, Dave, you're off your tits, just like Lord Denning. Back to the books.
I see we've got some robust lefty slapping going on, which I like to see. Well done, all involved. Absolutely wonderful. Yes, what are they? What doesn't upset them? Oh my God, this younger lot is just mental. It's proper mental. And they are the fascists. They don't even get it. Want to stop everything. Safe spaces and fucking don't even know what's in their pants. And Jesus. Oh. I despair.
I was despairing earlier at the lack of the ability for the Royal Bank of Scotland group to be able to tell me definitively about this bank account. It's got a question mark above it that I'm asking for a subject access request on. And the bottom line is, I'll be brief, but I'll give you a full picture. They are saying they can't find it. It doesn't exist. They don't know what I'm on about. So when I was despairing earlier, my higher self came down, slapped me, and went, "You're an idiot. You've got it. The answer's in front of you. If you're telling everybody at the bank that you want to know about this account, and they're telling you from every angle which you can find, executive, data, DSAR, office, branch, calling in, nobody can find this account number and sort code. Nobody at the bank. Nobody can see it. Nobody can find it. Nobody can reference it. Nobody can anything it. But yet, I've used it and I know it's there. So what I'm thinking is, if I go and get this data back, and the bank's giving the runaround on this alleged direct account, and that it's not there and it doesn't exist. If I can utilise this account that's not there and doesn't exist, and I can utilise it to my advantage, then if it's not there and it doesn't exist, then they won't mind me using it, will they, Kev, and everyone?
No, of course they won't. It's got your name on it. How can they stop you using it?
Well, I don't know if it has. I haven't got a name I've got to call him, but I believe it may be an account of which I can benefit from. And if they're playing,
you've got some shitty old paperwork laying around that you might be able to use.
So if they continue to say, what I'm going to do is let everybody know that they are giving me the runaround, and I have quite a lot of proof here of the claim. So we're continuing on with that one for those that are wondering, speaking about situations and private and whatnot. I find it hilarious because you can go online and you can go to these websites that are called bank account checkers, and you can put these details into independent, third party, non-RBS bank account checker websites, and they'll check and tell you if the account's valid and what type of account and various international details. And you go and put these details in. So I'm going to ask the bank before I get annoyed with them, before I leave, I just say, as a matter of concern, if you'd just like to use a non-RBS bank checker then, instead of using your own systems, because I've told them that I believe that I've negated an account and I'd like to check if I have any accounts there, but I don't have any bank account details. I've moved around that much as a nomad, as a traveller, and I've lost all my bits, so, paperwork-wise. And I needed some help, and a DSAR subject access request would then let me know if I've omitted any accounts, and I can tidy everything up, because that's what these procedures are generally for. They aren't really for detecting secret super Vatican papacy accounts such as, but I told her that I believe that I'd negated to negate, and I may be needing to tidy up, so just crack on and send me everything you've got. And it's just interesting now that they can't find that. And I would utilise it and try and benefit from it then, because it doesn't exist and nobody can find it. But I will ask them just to check on a third party thingy and say, look, it says RBS, it says everything about it, where it is, what branch, what road, so hilarious, it really is. But if I can use it and utilise it, and it doesn't exist, then so can everyone else, you get me?
Get in there.
I did ask, if they come later on asking and crying about it, what's happening here? Hang on a minute.
You shouldn't be asking them anyway, so you just say, right, okay, there it is. Now I require authorization. That's it. Not saying please, let me do it. Give me the access, or else.
Yeah. Madness. It's hilarious. I've just got to close all and dot the I's, cross the T's. What in this world now? It come from Heather Ann Tucci Giraffe, and it was a Facebook group called ARC Payments Direct or Treasury Payment Direct, and we did some digging, we did some checking, and we did some attaching, and I rang up PayPal and I told them some stuff. They added it to PayPal. We did some shopping. The shopping turned up 150 quid's worth on 2 items. And then some weeks later, PayPal sent a message going, about that transaction, and we're reversing it. And we went, no, no, no. And they went, yes, I'm afraid we are. It's come from the big man. You're not naughty. He's not the Messiah. He's not having the TDA. He's been a naughty boy. I went, who are you to tell me that? And they took it back, they did. And it was as if it never happened. And now when we go and say, about that shit that we did back then, we've come back for them accounts like, they know us, name it, claim it. And they went, what accounts? We don't know what you're on about. I went, these ones here that we've got proof of, that I've got receipts for, PayPal transactions. You know, I didn't dream this. I wasn't doing a Lord Denning and tripping me tits off last week of Tuesday. Oh, I remember this one, and it's gone now. It doesn't exist either. So I've checked it recently, and it is there. Heather and Tucci Giraffe and some others were in a Facebook group 3 years ago, telling us that Nasara Jasara was here back then. And this was our Nasara Jasara, everyone. So welcome to the 4th edition of Nasara Jasara.
Jungle.
That's how we found it. Just a lucky hit, I suppose, and doing some digging. And when PayPal attach bank accounts that you found and say it's yours, well, who are you going to believe? You're going to believe me, or are you going to believe PayPal when they say, yes, that's confirmed? What? Hello. Yes, that's confirmed. Okay, woohoo. At that moment, we did a little Trump, if I'm honest. Oh, thank you very much.
I bet he was going 6 pence half a crown, wasn't it?
Ooh, did a little Trump. I thought this is the first thing ever that's actually worked out. It's not that hard. And so here we are now with that same account, and nobody can find it. It's disappeared. Imagine that. Bit like
how weird.
We've lost them. Like those accounts, they're with the lunar module footage that we lost also. It's with the trillions from the Pentagon that we lost also. It's with our morality that we've lost also. It's with the free TV licenses for the old age pensioners that we couldn't give a shit about. Let's go, Jonathan Pye. Wankers. Sorry, just had to get it in.
Yes. Well, what about the account that you've got proof you've used to access that we say doesn't exist?
So get ready for when I start reattaching it and using it again, because once I've got written evidence from the corporation saying it doesn't exist, we don't know what you're on about, where they can't come back in a month's time when I'm...
Yeah, stop using that account. What account?
Exactly.
It doesn't exist. What are you talking about? That account you said doesn't exist. What are you mental?
He's a bit Radio Rentals, he is. He's
That'd
having
be brilliant, mate.
babble.
That'd be brilliant.
See,
Yeah, you can't do that. What? I can't spend money from the account you told me doesn't exist.
Yeah. Madness.
Oh, I'd love to be on that phone call. Oh my God.
Welcome to our world, the place
brilliant.
that sends you mad.
Oh, that's got to happen, Dave. Do it, and then you've got like a conference calling. We're conference calling, so I can just so I can listen. It'd be brilliant. Oh, that would be a laugh, wouldn't it?
If Alice in Wonderland did bank accounts.
Yes, you go straight to the bank, wouldn't you? You say, well, hello, hang on, paper. Who's saying I can't? Well, such and such a bank. Hang on. You say this account doesn't exist. That would be so funny, mate. Just to see what they'd say. Look, I've even got a letter here from you. We don't know what you're talking about. It doesn't exist. So I'm okay to use something that doesn't exist then? Yes? Oh, yes, that would be brilliant. Because they'll shoot themselves in the foot. They always do. That would be funny. What account?
I'm just scanning the room, brother. I'm just going in now, seeing. We're all good. We're all good. I'm looking. It's looking. Yeah, we got a lot of documents to refresh. What do I need to tell you? I need to tell you that Kevin is featured heavily in this week's uploads. Pop pickers. Yes, we got some jury service text to you to consider. There's quite a lot to consider on there. There's not just one angle, but there's a bit of text that was given initially, and then there's stuff about jury nullification and being signed off sick. So that's for you to consider. The video that I read the other day, the video that I was reading a document from about the rule and law, the Lord's the English lawful guidance examination of rule and law, not the rule of law, but rules and law. I've got that document uploaded. We have a new from Kevin again, a good private parking parasites PCN charge notice uploaded. We've done the Castle Defender Pack, rogue callers, agents, officers. That's got a free template letter contained within it at the bottom. If they continue to harass you, we've included that for you. We've got from Kevin again the conditional acceptance for local authorities, councils after civil domestic issues. So thank you, Kevin, for your efforts these last week. And
No worries.
they're on, they're up. We'll see how they go.
To say that one for the local authority, that's specific for them wanting to interfere in your private life and your children and all the rest of it, basically. So, you know, can be adapted for anyone and added to.
They're an agency. Yeah, remember they're agent, not you, but the listeners, the scribes. Remember, they're always agencies. And they come with an agent. This is where agent comes from, because they're always agents. Agent relationship. You are the principal of the source of the credit of all of what they want. They're like, it's not nice to say, but they're like contractual vampires. Their payment is blood, and they need blood for payment. And sorry, but yeah, just these agencies and the agents that come round to ask you, would you like some help? Is it going well? I don't know.
And that's the language they use as well. Now remember that.
Go on.
That's the sort of thing they'll say to you.
Hello.
Oh, would you like some help? And of course you might say, yes, please. Well, guess what you've just done? you just done a deal with the devil. They're private businesses, nothing more, nothing less. They're fucking parasites. You've all heard the horror stories of them. You do not have to do any business with them. They're not fit for purpose. So just point it out to them.
You can do business. You don't. We're saying, we're not saying that not to. It's just you don't speak the language that they speak, which is clear, and we've proven that. Neither do we, but we can interpret it and we can translate it or show you how to translate it, whichever way. But this document has been considered as what, Kev? When we got the feedback, it's the first time it's been used. It's freshly generated. It's only just been created and born, but on its first use, it was said as well.
It was brilliant. So the partner of the member that we did the notice for, she got a call from said council social services, who basically went, he's taken an injunction out on us, which is a little bit strong. Well, so if they think that what we've done in that notice is taken out an injunction, one, they clearly don't understand what an injunction is, because there's certainly no court paperwork in there.
No. So
they're either saying that to make it sound, like more official than it is because of what we've done. And they're sort of going, oh, he's taken out an injunction, we can't speak to him. Because I think the other half, unfortunately, has been a little bit of a softer touch with them. So obviously they're going to try and sink the fangs in there now. So hopefully, I think they're going to send the same notice, but from the other half now. Just say, no, thanks for your offer, your services, no thanks, but could you just answer all this? And so they read it as an injunction. we take an injunction. We haven't done anything of the sort. We've just used Data Protection Act, General Data Protection
Law.
Regulations, doctrine of notices, conditional acceptance. That's what we've used, and a Section 10 notice from Data Protection Act 1998, which is the only bit I can see them regarding possibly as an injunction, which isn't. And obviously we put a schedule of fees, etc. in there. But it's a proviso on the schedule of fees, and that is you can respond to us as long as you answer exactly what we've asked, and in substance. But if you send us back nonsense answers, or no answers at all, or poor ones, then we count it as unsolicited and send you a bill, basically. So that's what we've done. Just pointed out who they are, who we are, the facts of the matter, asked them, because they were making claims.
Yeah.
Making claims. So we said, well, okay, that's fine. Under CPR 3116, full disclosure before proceedings. Let's see all your evidence and all your claims.
Oh, you're giving away the whole notice here. They'll be able to construct their own now.
Well, good.
Yeah, good.
Good.
See what we are. We aren't we kind. We're so lovely, aren't we? Yeah.
It's not rocket science, people. It really isn't.
There's no 3 dots. There was no Magna Carta. There was no constitution. There was no sovereign. It was just all business. There was constructive law here. It's different laws, man-made, secular. There's different levels, and all we've got to work out is what level are you at, and then how do you accept and counter. And what we've worked out is pretty much for any legal situation, this can be applied, and it's incredibly powerful, is what it is, and it's calm, it's straightforward. It works every time. It works for anybody. It can work in just about any country. All courts just about recognise equity, so it's. England, we can only say for Britain it will work in English courts, what we're talking about now, because we've only tested it. Australia, Canada, America, Greece, France, wherever, we'd like you to, if we could eventually, neighbourly chats. It'd be great to have a continental chat. So what happens there with the garçon and troopers, and get the hey man, I just had a hot trooper on my ass, and get some live and directs of across the pond, Subarans, initiates of, and we could swap some by the campfire neighbourly chats of yes, the officer. Sorry. But yeah, just swapping how it is, like what we said about human rights. Well, you'd think in this day and age that everybody has human rights. Well, let's look at women. Let's look at Eastern Arabic, Saudi Arabia and so forth, women rights, and then let's look at English, American, French, European women's rights. Just because there's human rights in play doesn't mean to say that everybody automatically, we have to still, your rights. That's why we're focusing on rights a little bit here as well with this. It's your rights to get your credits that you've put in. It's not even money, and debt isn't debt. There's no debt and there's no money. That's another, let alone the language or the law or the religion. There's a lot of blockbusting. I appreciate when you get into this game, you deal with a lot of, without, really making a big deal of it, massive areas that just, really, you need to take time to let them digest and work out. It's not something every day that you were able to do, but these techniques and their systems, you see, they're not ours, and we're not proud of them. But what we can do is manipulate them and limit discretions. Now we can already be at the end, right at the very first word. We can still be at the end of the game because we'll plan the defence, won't we, Kev? So then you can limit the pathway too, and it's very good without the need for ambiguous, callings upon certain things that aren't, what would we say, substantial, that aren't backed up, that aren't going to work, that aren't effective, that aren't proven. So these are the things that we're getting to look at, and we are tailoring it now, we are tweaking it, and we are getting into a really, really comfortable place, let me tell you.
Yeah. Yes, it's nice. There's nothing to worry about, people. You got it covered. You got it covered with a few polite letters and questions. You soon take this thing out of them buggers.
They even gave you a person as a get out, jail card.
Yeah,
Well, nice of them. We're going to use that more than we ever
yeah.
have.
That's it. So now we know what it is. We know how to use it, and that's what we do now.
That's what she said.
Just utilise it for the benefit of, not the liabilities for.
We have just uploaded a document. I got this to say on the back of it all, which is a 100+ page walkthrough examination guidance for initiates. It's got the last will and testament outlay in there. It's got no information of power of attorney. There's a separate forum I'm building on the .com that's got all of the technicalities, because I don't want to oversize that document. I just want it to be a trust document, which a last will and testament is a trust, but I'd like it to be revocable, irrevocable, and then expressions of types of private trusts that I've put in there. So you've got deeds, templates, laws, acts, secret trust is in there, all the material about the case law is in there, publications, all the sources, references, lords, many lords, Lord Romley, Lord Stewart, Lord Denning, wow, yeah, we got enough to back everything up, so it's not just YouTube movements of SPLs and whatever and Facebook. It's actual, real, tangible history, like what I read you at the beginning of this video. So we have got to the stage where we can ask for a modest donation of about. We go to the .com and look at the store and look at the store and filter it to recent, and you'll see a publication there that's got everything that's been assessed and used at this day today by me, Kevin, and the .com. What it comprises of and what we do and what we're here to do is to obtain trust, utilize trust, express trust, and this technology that we're talking about with the conditional acceptance is not the trust technology. That's law and the civil procedure rules and the pre-action protocols, but mixed in with what we've learned with religion, etymological linkages, the scholars that we've met and the chats and our own work. Then we're able to now stand in a very secure, strong place. We'll get Josh, like I say, on, and some other chats, and get Claudio on and go through the international areas and the next level that we're about to go to. We are like I say, polishing the wings of shields of steel.
Yeah, polishing the armour, adding a few more rivets.
It's just in time, because the whole world seems to be going to craziness, to shit, may I say, and there is, claims of, big sensationalizing stories going around that we've covered years ago, that others have covered before us, that we've recovered. So credit being lent by banks, no money ever lent, and the repayment of interest on credit, the special purpose vehicles that they're putting in. They put into envelopes lots of bank loans and mortgages, and that envelope carries all of those mortgages and bank loans and etc., and that's called a special purpose vehicle. And then them debts go and get floated on markets and sold to bonds and whatnot to investment brokers, and they're called prime and subprime investments, and it gets all dirty and insured up, and madness gets. It's just really is. We've got to stop this machine, because paying back something what you created, you are the principality, PAL at the end, a principal as in Sheffield pal, not the PLE ending word. And like I say, it's going to be a pleasure to announce and to help echo, all lives matter, the areas that we're at. But finance is really like religion and like law. They're the three biggest areas, I suppose: money, religion, and law on this landmass. And to have all three encompassed in a renaissance, and that's not all that's being expanded, as you're aware, at the minute. So bitcoins and digital stuff, laws in themselves. Look how old some of these laws are that we quote 1800s, and is it not time that we had a remix, a flipping of the script? Money and law and religion, they're all pretty old, aren't they? All three of them. Is it any wonder that they're all intertwined and a contention of ours? Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, hey.
Harry.
They do that, don't they?
I haven't decided on a general meeting, an annual meeting yet. So
No, we got to at
Yeah.
least get that done this year. I reckon we'll make it. We'll all go to Lisa's in Nome, Alaska.
see the green men in the
Lisa
road.
and James, yeah, they'll put us up.
Go and see the aliens. I'm coming to see the aliens that don't exist. That do, that do exist. That the film lied about, but actually do really exist, but not as.
Oh, I have got a spooky video to send to you from my son that happened today, this morning.
Okay.
Very weird. Yeah, I want you to first hand, absolutely, direct. This is. It's spooky. And then we'll put it out there, see what other people make of it. But I've got the video of it from what it is his girlfriend's mother took the dog out this morning, right? And they've got one of those ring doorbells, so as soon as any motion. So you see her leave the door, walking away from the house, and you can hear, well, it's like frequencies changing. And she said she was like a few yards down the road and it was hurting her ears and the dog started going mental and also, but it's coming from the sky, but it's all recorded on the Ring telephone doorbell.
Gotcha. That sounds just what something we'd like to look at.
Yeah, so I've actually got, I'll send it to you, Dave, when we finish it. So I've got it on the phone, but it's from my son from this very morning and you can hear it all. And he was saying he was talking to the guys because not that far away. They're all working on the top of the Tesco's, putting all the 5G in, and he was talking to one of the guys up there, and that was installing. He said, well, "We don't know when we just do the installation. We don't know when they're switching it on." And I'm just saying, not saying it's definitely it, but he was saying, could it be something to do with that? But it sounds like they're tuning through frequencies, hence the dog going mental. But Jeanette said it was really hurting her ears. So it's coming from the sky, this noise. I have the video, undoctored.
Nice.
So yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'll enjoy looking at that and seeing what go on. Then we need all the ears and eyes, all shell likes, mince pies and shell likes activated. You are the eyes and ears, and you can let us know. We'll do it together and see what go on.
It was just down the road from Barnsley. It was this morning. I don't know whether he was over at the girlfriend's last night or something, but yeah, I don't know what time she went out. I think there's probably might be the time on it. But anyway, yeah, there's this very morning. As I say, you can hear it all. It's really, really odd. Very odd people.
As we are having a neighbourly chat and we are loving thy neighbour, then we can ask our neighbours to tell their neighbours, who will tell their neighbours, and pretty long we'll have a great little chat going on here. So if you'd like to introduce us to your neighbour, literally, I mean it, tell your neighbour you got some friends on tube that like to be put to the test. I don't know if we like it, but we're au fait to it. We like to field, questions, and yeah, we'll do our best to welcome them into the fam. So we need to keep an eye on stuff like this. I've seen some zany stuff now with the release of the Pentagon and the CIA and all of this tic-tac, episode going on, backing up what we've been on about. The skies are active. I don't know if I've seen Sky Net. Well, we're gonna have to call it Skynet. It can't be.
It's got to be. It can't be. What's it called? Starlink. No, it's definitely Skynet.
It's got. Yeah, we're gonna leave John Connor Skynet there, and just I can't explain.
You've not seen it yet.
I've seen things. I've seen some shit, and I haven't always
I
got
know
a
that, but
Canon.
have you seen Skynet yet?
I don't. I'd like to say yes, but I saw it, and it was like a pinball effect, and there was 8 to 20. I'm not sure. It was late at night, and I was very, very tired at the time, and um,
Suspiciously tired?
yes, and 2 a.m., silly o'clock, and I looked up and I thought, "What's that?" Like someone had a mirror on the sky, and it was moving fast, and it'd stop, it'd break really quick, then it'd speed up again, like your concertina effects, what you get at the starting of the Formula One, or when they all come to a corner, and
Yeah.
you see them all grouping up, then they all stretch out and they all group up. That was happening in the sky with massively bright lights all going in a line, dots and orbs and flashes, and I've got a blue powerful laser here. I want to see and meet and have a fifth counter, whatever it is, a 10th counter. I don't mind. I'm not scared. I do believe, and I know others do. So the sky is, yeah, the technology we have. Is it ours? Is it ours? You get me, fella.
Indeedy.
Stephen Greer. Has anybody seen Stephen Greer's new film? Not that I
Yeah.
promote that bodybuilder of
What one? The
science.
latest?
Yeah, there's a number fifth encounter. Is it called? Yeah, I'm
I
gonna
think,
try.
yeah, something like, yeah, I think I've seen that one, yeah. I was just quickly, I think, yeah, Claire's just doing, thanks Claire, she's got an early morning. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're still around, hope you hear this. Thank you very much. That's all, Dave. You crack on now.
There was a good 2 years ago things going on YouTube about videos with a bell toll, like a growly mechanical train type, and there was people in like um, I don't know, Yellowstone Park or something. No buildings, no machinery, nothing but trees and ponds, and you just to get these weird recordings of grumblings and um, I don't know, harbingers. It was a lot of different places hearing low frequency rumblings at certain times, and um, yeah, there's some things that I'd like us to have technology where we could just send up Skydog, or whatever we call it, and off it goes. Come
I
on,
don't.
the best drone that man could ever, totally wear helmets. It's 3D, it can. We have got the capability. It's just we don't actually have the licensing. If you look, we're not licensed for it. Have you got a license for that? Like in the rave days. Cha, you need a license to play that. I got a tune that's on when the Rastaman comes on. Everybody needs to know. You need a license for that. Cha. Without no license, you can't do nothing. You got to be silent without the license. And yeah, we got some good tech. We could go and check that ourselves. Tesla putting a car in space there, allegedly. I say that loosely, flat Earth crew. Why don't you put a camera, a GoPro on the back so we could all have a look at where we live? Just a thought there, Mr. Tech.
Have you, just quick tangent, Dave, have you still got WhatsApp?
I've got some. I might have it. Yeah, on an old device. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just seeing if I can, just see if I've got any options to send this. Oh, hang on.
It is on one of the numbers. I have got it somewhere. Yeah.
Hang on. Where's there, it's alright, got it. Right, I've just sent you that video. I think. I hope I haven't sent you the wrong one. Oh no, I'm in your post now. Right, okay.
Well, I've got no
I've done it
question.
in Telegram, mate. In Telegram.
All right.
I've got it.
I'm reading.
All right.
Yeah, I'm reading the room. See if there's anything.
Okay.
Questions wise, we've been on a wee while. You're all good. I am up early actually, as well, but not too early. Intrepid voices. Thank you, Lisa. We got intrepid voices, have we? And selfishly share for the betterment of all. Aren't you lovely? That might be the top comment.
She is lovely.
What's the
What's
payment?
happened there? Yeah.
Quinn with his 10 commandments of thou shalt not, 10 command to minds no law or legal tender. I like the way you vendor that, my blender.
Go back a bit and look at the one about credit then. See, read it.
Yeah, that's it. It is see, read
That's
it.
excellent. Yeah, love it. Well done, Quinn. Fair play to you, mate.
So we're not being big when we say this or clever, and we don't do it with an attitude, and we do it with a controlled ego. I don't think there's many legal situations now that our trust and gathering and archives and notices can't actually accept and dispute and put the liability back on the claimant. And when we go into the quantum realm, if we can get into the Warcastle, Windmiller, Gould, and we've got to throw in Chomsky there for the syntactic structures effort of the 60s, and we will be ready. We have got the New Testament, the Old Testament, the comparables there. We found old texts and scripts, and by the time Egypt has gone through this Renaissance and we've gone through the proper lineages, and I've adjusted the fact that Constantine may not have been the sole reason for the canonization of the Roman New Testament there, the Judeo-Christian text that we've come to know as the Holy, it's the Holy Roman Bible, it's Holy Roman when we say the seas of space, the Holy Roman seas of space, and it's the Holy Roman Catholic and it's the Bible, the Holy Roman seas of space. When we talked about the laws and the air and the sea and admiralty and maritime, common law, ecclesia, UCC, and canons, we were saying the air's got the holy seas. When we asked for the rites of passage on the priest in Liverpool, we said these words: Father, we require rites of passage through the holy seas, were the words we used. I'll never forget them words. Father, we require you to aid us and assist us with the rites of passage through the holy seas, and that's where the battle is, the holy seas there. So the canonization of the New Testament was done by a council of, and it's a pleasure, and keep the emails rolling. Kevin's email is working. That would be kevin@splspro.com. Yes, I. And keep us, email us both sometimes if you want us both to have a look at something. You put David, put Kevin in, send it off, and we can have a three-way email chat now. It's good to see what your comments are, your information, and you can share stuff. I'm going to read some out, the contents of. There is a juicy one on the .com about Nasara Jasara that's got to be 20 pages long that I think you'll all like on a midweek special or something. We'll get that read because I need help dissecting that, let me tell you. We need help on that one. It's got connotations of, I'll warn you now, of galactic, all right, and emperors of space. And if ever you've looked into Scientology and seen the galactic emperor Zorg that's going to come and save them, or along them lines of, this is what you're going to get. It's some Taikeshi on everything. Somebody sent me an email and said, Dave, you heard any of this? And I hadn't heard any of it, and I want you to hear some, and I want us to take it with a pinch of salt, but I do believe it will be highly ducking entertaining. Some of the stuff we get, but keep it coming. We're on top with a lot of the admin. Like I say, we published a document which is a heavyweight that should look at protecting a lot of property rights of property, not just your tangible, your intangible. And when you look at trusts, you're going to have to work out, the various levels of trust. I can't tell you, Kev can't tell you, the .com can't tell you, but you need to be able to know there are various areas, like I said, about the air, the land and the sea. You've got legal trust, ecclesia trust, lawful trust, constructed UK business trust. You've got a lot to juggle around. So this second layer that we go on, we'll take you through a lot of that again. We'll go over and we'll boost up a layer as well.
Right.
Sounded like you were counting your money then or something. What were you doing then, Kev?
I was putting tobacco away.
Really? Okay.
Counting money. I've got one £10 note in my pocket.
I think Queen's trying to chat you up, Kev. Thank you, Quinn. I'm only taking
Oh, that's
you.
very nice.
Thank you, brother.
Got a semi. Right, what else happened in the room? Phones are dying.
Persons, Claire and Mulholland, without being, you're here for a reason, and this is what we do, so I don't need to excuse myself. But when you say that general executor is the highest office of man, well, man is unable to hold an office because man, we taught you, is legally unable to interface, which is why we have the person, the straw man, the entity, the persona, the personality, whatever. It's the same thing, the birth certificate. So we have the date of birth and a national insurance number. So when we don't have the birth certificate with us, we can still present the person by knowing the person's details. So when you say that the highest position that man can hold of office, well, only a person can hold an office in my reckonings there. Man has titles, man can claim a title, and man gets titles and entitled, and trust is the currency of man. An entrusted man is one of, I'm entrusted, Kev's entrusted, and that's one of the highest positions, highest accolades man can. When you ask somebody for help, you're entrusting them because you do have got a problem, and you ask someone for help. So without expressing a trust, just by the fact that you ask for help, is putting trust on somebody. Do you know, even just a simple thing like, hey, excuse me, pal, you wouldn't know where the co-op is, would you? When you're travelling. Sorry to use but everybody, local places, there's a co-op everywhere that you get, you want to get something, you're stuck somewhere, you don't know where you are, you got a screaming family, a little baby, you need something, the local supermarket, the shop, you ask for directions and you trust whoever it is, that stranger at that moment, and they tell you, and 90% of the time, on the spot directions are all bollocks. It turns out, a survey said, but then 10%, you get lucky. But whatever, you entrust somebody. So man has a title there, and a person would claim an office, a ward of the state. So the highest position of an office, man, that's your oxymoron there. Office and man, that's like your sovereign citizen or your criminal offence. An office of man, it's a person in an office, and a man has titles and entitled with. So I just wanted to say, because other than that, I like what you said there, my love. Yeah, being an executor, executor, executive, X. Look at the words there as well. While we're on C Reddits and stuff, and Josh X Stiley, I did say, and I will keep saying, words that contain the X, specific words that caught my little brain eye, attachment of groups, powers and words that start AU, periodic element table of elements. We use, when we look at words, we don't just use dictionaries. And when I saw letter X and X pirate X and X is 10 Roman numerals, and the word existential having an X in it and the word 10, I just go loopy with it all. So I'm just telling you, because we want you to be the highest and most perfect and best you can be. So the words with X in it, you put a kiss at the end, you see, you put 10, you put Claire 10 at the end there, you could read that as Claire X. So thank you, I'll yield.
X is 10. Shield.
And when we go Egyptian, you'll find that Akhenaten, when I heard these words, Aten, I went, Aten? No way, attention, David. What do you mean? There was many gods in Egypt, and then Akhenaten says, I love the sun. The sun is called Aten. I went, whoa, hang on a minute now we're talking.
Aten, son.
Yeah, Apep, Aten, Amun, and it's about to explode again. We've got more holes we can fill in, I'm happy to say.
Yeah, I'm thinking of going back to church just for a couple of services. So every time they do Amen and the congregation joins in, I'm going to add Ra on the end. At the top of my voice.
Yeah, it's a pleasure and an honour. What we can do, we'll not get everything right first time, but where we are, what we are, when we are, is a lot more clearer and apparent.
No, but we learn by doing.
Mm.
We We've learned by doing an application, not by following.
We'll like to watch. I'm going to watch this video back to hear the detail. Yeah, just disconnected. I'll watch this back. There's some good information there in the comments you've given for the last video I did, with the details about the police, and yeah, I've got some good comments coming through. We're in an area that can benefit many, and it will be put to the test. Our words will be put, where our money will be put where our mouth is, so to speak, on this one. So onwards and upwards.
Come forward, test our words, bring it on. What's that quote from? The Exorcist tells. Yeah, you have no legal authority here. Absolutely.
It's a trick.
Go back to your own jurisdiction.
It's a trick, a magician's trick, and when you know the trick, like those words that was it Andy that mentioned at the beginning of the video and said he's used and he's had a success with it. Once you know what we know to say, then you become as empowered as we are. Then hopefully you might be that happy with how you are that you'll come back and then say, you got any jobs that you need doing? Because we have got loads of jobs that need doing, and we'd like to recruit. So how we recruit is by giving you everything that you need to be protected, just to do business, to keep the liability at bay, to keep the demons that we see in the form of corporative stances like the British Broadcasting Corporation, finding it completely acceptable to now legally prosecute OAPs for not having a license. Yeah, come on, you know you need a license for that. Rasta Morris is coming to kick
that
you
should be a
out.
mission for everybody, right? Anybody who's got any elderly neighbours, all the rest of it, go round there with your laptop and get them off the licence. Do it on the thing. Get rid of their licence. They don't watch the BBC. Do all that. It needs to be done. They need to be taught a lesson now.
Well, wait, because with your eagerness, we've got a conditional acceptance or two that we could modify, and we could start going on contract and taught and tacit. What we've learned. What I was going to propose is if we've got a British Broadcasting Corporation with a royal charter that says X, Y, and Z, and they're going to find it in times of national distress, such as now, and strain and economic uncertainty and duress and medical, pandemics, epidemics, all of what we've got going off. Our good old British Broadcasting Corporation is finding it acceptable, like the government's finding it acceptable to allow the private company to start recrewing its fine fees and forfeits. It's like everything's, coming back down again, the holiday payments and the penalties and the fees that they're going to put in. So if they're going to play these games with our fam, the least we can do is give out a dedicated SPLS Pro TV license, conditional acceptance. I want to put some mark on this and show that we could look at giving out a free conditional acceptance for the private corporation of the British Broadcasting Corporation and its Royal Charter, and say, if you're going to force our elderly to have a license and go to legal prosecutions, we will then do a class action lawsuit, and we'll take somebody on and say we will go through contract law, and we will use solely contract law on the premise of, and we will use what we use, and we will get the British Broadcasting Corporation and its prosecuting legal departments in the face of the world to go and prosecute some OAP for not conforming to private corporate policy and the rule and not law, and we will show and publicly demonstrate how law, contract law, and quantum grammar, let me tell you now, that nullifies contract law without anything that we know. So if there's anybody out there that wants to come and go Barry Big Bollocks on this and say, with what you've got and my quantum grammar, I'd like to join on this public crusade for the saving of our pensioners' pockets, the precious pensioners' pockets, the PPP project. But still, I'm sure that if a private corporation set up such as SPLSPro.corps and we started broadcasting Kevin Dave and said, well, now you're receiving it and we've got to charter with you see that charter bit there, it's in cahoots with the monarchy because they've got a charter and they provide a service and you must pay for it. You see, you're serviced by agents of the monarchy, and like what I read at the beginning, so we conditionally accept, and there will be instances where they will not watch the BBC, and the BBC are changing their tactics to say, well, if you have equipment such as capable of receiving such channels as terrestrial such and such broadcasting, then you are at liberty to have a license. What? Really? So now you're telling me, even though I said I don't want one, you're telling me I've got to have one because of what I own. The property that I have dictates I have to have a license. Okay, then. Wow. I'll leave it there, but I think using contract law, tacit and tort conversions, and X, Y, and Z, we could save, and it would be a great fingers up to the establishment for us as well, to be fair, if I'm honest with you. It's a great couple of fingers flagging them off. Your Jimmy Saviles and your bloody princes and your paedophilia and your dirty... That's a reason to kick back in itself. We've lost trust. We don't want to funnel you money so you can give it people to do what you've done in the past. Once you break the trust, there is no contract. Yeah, is that not agreed? Is that not agreed, everybody? Yes, I think it's a fair point.
Yeah.
If you break the trust,
Is.
we don't do business with you again. Like Facebook and its advertising scams. I'll say it like this: if you fool me once, shame on you. If you fool me twice, shame on me, because I should have picked up after the first time. If you fool me 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, I'm clearly not worthy of saving, because I can't seem to see when someone's coming to take me for a ride, and I'm not benefiting from any of this. So we have these corporations that I think they're testing a little bit, like how far they can push, like having your chancellor, not your chancellor, having your ministers and your agents coming on for the UK government, telling us when they're blind, they go out for a drive, giving us a public admission of a criminal offence by their own measures and statutory codes. You've come out there and told us that you all go and commit crimes on national TV. I want no part of these lot, to be fair. They can't even manage a lie.
The shit at lying.
We've got the proof.
Oh my god. And they broadcasted it across the world.
Not only is it a lie, but it's a crime by their own policies. Not wearing a mask could be considered as controversial as a criminal offence on the Road Traffic Management Act. And if you don't wear your mask outside when you should be, when they told you to, you can be considered as serious, as heinous as travelling and driving without your belt on. Wow.
I don't have to wear one. Ha! I'm special.
You're exempt. But it has to be a certain standard of mask now. It can't be like one of them out-of-date masks that they had in the beginning that they said was good, that they've now banned and said the model...
Oh, no, you need a respirator one. That's what you actually need. With the twin filters on. No fucking surgery masks are a waste of time. Oh, excuse my French.
Yeah, and you got the National Health saying that they haven't got enough equipment again, and I don't know anybody that suffered with COVID still at the beginning, of all of this in March, late March. I was quite anxious for the numbers and figures, and I was going to follow this, but with what's come out and the news and it's unclear as to what the hell's going off. It appears that Kevin has got some numbers that I was looking at. Mr. Menzer and somebody said there's a video going around, a question time, where they're saying less than 400 people or 500 people under 60 have died at the end of March, April, maybe May, end of April, beginning of May this was. And they were saying there's a video with the BBC saying 500 people under 60 have died in 10 weeks. The figures are wrong. They can't count. They can't count the gloves. They can't count their equipment. They can't count how many tests they've sent out. They can't accurately do anything at all effectively except mess things up. That's the only consistency that I see here. And Kev's got some numbers. You told me some on the phone the other day. Can you remember the deaths and things?
In fact, I saw something. I think from what I've seen today, the numbers that I've seen are now up on the NHS site. But what I don't know how many of you recall, but at one point we were being touted as the highest number of deaths, and we were up in the 60s. I'm sure it was around 65,000 we were quoting as one of the worst affected. As far as I know, and I did see it, it's 1,349 or 94 actual COVID deaths. 294 of those were under 60 years old. How much? They could have been 59. Who knows? But that's, I read that a few days ago, and apparently I saw a post earlier showing the NHS site with those figures now on it. Now, if those figures are now true, then how have they ever justified what they've done to the country if it's like 1,400 actual people died of it? Go have a look for yourselves, people. Go and have a look. But I saw those figures banded around a few days ago, and they were repeated again. I definitely saw a post today showing that it was now on the NHS COVID stuff. So, what's that tell you then? I mean, there should be heads rolling. There should be huge compensations for lost businesses, etc., on those grounds, if that's true. Should never have happened.
There's a pair of undies stop a fart, the fudge, and those masculinity. That's an excellent.
Yeah.
I know it's primitive and it's childish, but just that'll do. That'll ding dang do it.
They clearly say on the mask as well. Yeah, they're surgical masks. They don't do anything but stop you spitting inside the patients you're operating on. That's all they're for. They're absolutely rubbish. I mean, you try one of them when you're working with plaster or something, or you're sanding something down, or filler or stuff like that. You take that off and your face will be covered. It's much, same with the COVID. I think it was it 1.125 nanometers or whatever it is, and the masks, anything from 300 will go through it. You know what I mean? So total waste of time. And then I don't know if you've seen any of the experiments of. I've seen one interesting one: 2 petri dishes, a cough without a mask, yeah, and then a cough with a mask. And obviously, without the mask is absolutely covered in bacteria. But the funny thing is, you think that they then point out, well, that would be the inside of your mask with all this bacteria that you're rebreathing. They're very interesting. We all know it's bollocks anyway. As I say, anything that's going to protect you is a full hazmat suit, like in, what's that, Contagious or something, one of those films,
But if we could just yeah, you're right. For protection, you bang on a moon suit. But
Yeah.
if we've got figures that under 60s are not getting affected, and it's effectively the same as having a common cold, if you've got no pre-existing medicals and you're quite fit and strong, and you're 20 to 50, you're probably not going to get any damage from this. In which case, they didn't need to shut down the economies and eradicate the middle class and cause all of this, what they've caused, because they've had medical experts and the World Health Organization take control of this. The world has been listening to the mouthpieces of. And then we've had international humanitarian doctors and Americans and other splinter groups then voice their opinions. We've seen the was it CNN with the fake news set up and putting queues up. We've seen there's been some dirty little manoeuvres over these, the fractured man's psyche. They've made, even when I go out and I'm like being extra careful because I know I'm a bit fast and I don't always look around and consider everybody. So now I'm like, everybody's just scared of everybody. It's like a total new world that's emerged. People have forgotten how to speak. It's like, I feel like here we are in the city where the emerging coronavirus survivors are fucked. Look at them. They don't know shit. They're scared of everybody. It's just insane as the queues in life's just I don't know, the new normal, as they're saying. I didn't want to say that, but There is no new normal. It's just that, AIDS is a virus, and we've looked at viruses and things and how they spread and work. And this one seems to have got too many red flags. A bit like the building that hasn't collapsed that got reported as being collapsed. It's the same group. It's the same family. It's the same bloodline. As me and Kev said the other day, they haven't spent the last 6,000 years minimum. Okay, we'll say 6,000 years conservative. These bloodlines have not spent the last. I can't even say it.
They're good.
Yeah, they are.
They're ahead of the game. They've got plan A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Believe me, they're probably working on H, I, and J as we speak.
We can be awake to it, and do you know what? Sometimes being awake, woke, conscious, conscionable, an ambassador, witness, a diplomat, etc., sovereign, initiate, self-scholar of justice with the breastplate of a... Right, with all of that said, it's quite painful then watching what's going off when you know about the other mechanisms and alternatives and paradigms and could-bes and Venus projects and, offsettings and principles. And it's sometimes I wish I didn't know what I know, and I beg, for mercy and to be given that memory pill where I forget everything and wake up as an everyday Joe and just go about. And then when it goes boom, and it's a surprise, and everything's now changed. Oh well, because this watching it, I think, is quite. We've made a rod for our own backs, which is obviously, as you can see, what drives us on. It gives us determination. We just want to give two fingers up to the estate, the BBC. We think we're going to start with you, I think, yeah.
Yeah, might as well put it on them. Crimes against humanity, surely again.
Contract, yeah. Either we had a war, lest we forget, and we beat a dictator, and we have a choice, or we don't have a choice. In which case, bring Mr. Smith's master down, because he's the one who's going to pay that TV license. So either Mr. Smith, the OAP, rules his estate and he manages it, or we've got a master. In which case, we've just celebrated the war and etc. to say we live freely and we're governed by consent. So we can throw all that in the bin then, can't we? Let's get the Magna Carta, let's get the Constitution. While we're at it, we'll get the Bible. Come on, hey ho. Let's just chuck it all away. What is it you said? What were the rules again? We're very sorry. How much do we pay? We won't do it again. Please, sire. It's getting to that point, isn't it, where you're going to be old soon. Kev, Dave, fam, and we need to sort this out for, not just for us, but for our lineages as well. And you've paid all your taxes. They're no criminals.
We don't know where all this shit's going. They've got to have some protection, because it don't look like once us lot have all checked out of here with this lefty lunacy that's going on and all the rest of it. I don't know about much hope. These youngsters buying into all that shit, it's a recipe for disaster. So I'm glad I'm edging towards the exit, to be honest.
Yeah,
that's my opinion. Not necessarily the opinion of SPS Pro or an Infinite. Thank you.
Yes.
I despair.
There's a good thing. We can start with the simple things though. Once we show them money, everyone's got money problems. So what we'll do is we'll do on this second level, we're going into negotiable instruments, bills of exchange, accepted for value, rights, property, instruments, UCC, UCC1, UCC3, value and negotiable instruments, bills of exchange, credits, discharge, money, transfer, intrinsic, non-intrinsic, and we'll go through credit. The bank doesn't have money. Money is money and credit is credit. They're separate. Cash is credit. It's a debt note, but it's a form of credit because it's a debt note. It's got to be, it says on it, I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of. So if you go to the Chancellor of the Exchequer with your notes and say, I demand to be paid, he's going to have to pay you 10 grand's worth of whatever the bearer demands. 10 grand of what? Carrots, potatoes, blood, skin, gold. I don't know what the exchange rate is for them, but we'll start with because if we've got 500,000 souls about to go into debt, mortgage repossession, recession, businesses foreclosed, seize, and they think they've got debt, let's go to them and show them there is no debt. What greater privilege could we get to show, don't worry about that, and we're all bankrupt anyway. You're worried about going bankrupt, but we are actually all bankrupt, and we can prove that. We'll do a video, we'll do a special topic focused on the debt and property and how this all works. And basically, you borrow credit, you create and borrow. You are essentially the principal, and you are the debtor. But you shouldn't be. You can choose to be just the principal. By using private banking instruments that are clearly there to use for private bankers and not us. But you choose to create that money, and you choose to pay credit, interest on that credit, which isn't money. They don't go and get the money physically and put it in your account, love. What they do is they type it in. When they type it in, that's called credit creation. It's aiding the growth of the economy. The money doesn't exist until you ask for it. In other words, you ask for the money, 50 grand, they create 50 grand. Your authority. You create that money that you ask for, they give it you, and you agree to pay interest on that credit because it didn't exist, because it wasn't money, because they didn't get it from anywhere, they didn't borrow it from anywhere. They're allowed to create it. And they have reserved fractional banking. We have gold, which is, a different value again, and silver. We have our blood and sweat, which is our energy, which is another value. And this trick is to get you to run around and build their shit and work in their factories. Because if you knew the truth, you'd be out there doing what you wanted to do and telling them to get, lost. we'd all be in a different world, a paradigm. But as it is,
Yes.
we all think that we owe shit, and we don't owe. Nobody here, no bank has ever lent any money, and nobody on this video listening owes any money 100%, and we can prove it, can't we, Kev?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's all there. Can't spend nothing, can only offset.
There's charges, so they give you a statement. We just had a summer statement. So you have a statement, you have a status, but they give you a statement, and that has the charges within it. And with charges like legal, civil charges, legal, civil, charged with, we discharge the charges. So with these charges, these are when you're charged at the station, they charge you with a charge. You charge a battery, it's electric, it's energy. As I said, the energy can be moved and made as long as you're somewhere for them, it gets them paid. So you keep moving around and going where you're told and using that energy and digging that hole and putting that there. And you see, and by proxy, they profit so many things. And warehousing civilians for civil issues in a warehouse, incarcerating them, is against many laws that we would say are constitutional, but we can't seem to back any of that up, and they keep locking us up, which is why we have taken this cutthroat direction that we have found ourselves on now, because everybody before us has clearly not delivered the goods, or we wouldn't be here today, would we? Have we missed something, anyone? Please speak up.
Don't think so.
Q is delivering Nasara Jasara, and we've got two kings fighting to get into Buckingham Palace. In the meantime, Rome gets drunk on the blood of saints and virgins and innocents.
Oh, dear me.
You all right, Kev? You're having a stretch. We'll wrap
It's me back. I was sat forward for too long, so my back's now moaning at me. Something else moaning at me. I haven't got enough moaning at me.
We've got questions about Michael Obanisia. As I've said, I can't answer what Michael's doing and why he's gone Magna Carta and what the premise is with that. We got questions about John Smith, questions about others. I can't really answer them because I'm not with them. We can only give an informed opinion at best. So I'm sorry for the lack of that. the Great British Mortgage, I have no knowledge on. I wasn't asked. I did go down to have a look, and I was curious about the indemnification from the land registry. Given what I've just put to you at the beginning of this video, that's exactly why I was interested in the remedy from the land registry. I went, land registry, you what? He's got a remedy with the land registry. I've got documentation and writings about such land tenures coming from 1066 and the incorporation of the quasi etc trusts here, and I think I might want to, and that's exactly why I went down, and I got told to get out because I might allegedly be stealing the technology, and I had to put them straight. I was quite
That was
offended.
Tobe Lee, wasn't it?
It might have been a man called Tobe, yeah, and I wanted to talk to Benicia about his sovereign trust declaration and all of this stuff that I was now like, hang on a minute, you used to be Mr. Sovereign, and when I did Sovereign Paralegals, in the second year I found you did a kick-ass video proclaiming on an international level. What the fuck happened to that? That's what I want to know. But I never got to ask him that because they got into the mortgage thing and it exploded big time, and I know nothing about it. So sorry, fam, you're on your own with that one.
Yeah, I'm sort of aware of a few. How can I put it? Questions
Episodes
being raised and issues around a particular issue. I'm not going to say anything on here. But, that people are questioning, shall we say? Although Graham and I have sort of discussed this, and we think that personally, I think there's a valid reason for things being the way they are that would make perfect sense to everybody. But I'm not in a position to really divulge that. It's not really my business. But as I say, I think.
Yeah, I can say something that can help out. People are saying to me, Dave, you guys share technology. When you and Kevin, others, and Andy and others, and what you've done over the years, you've given us more than others have given. But with this guy, he says it's his technology. It can only be used by him. Nobody else can know certain things. It can't go to other groups, and it must be done like this. And there's certain things, not just the evidences of claims, we'll say, and things that have come into the mix, but skepticism and the aggression and kicking people out of groups and telling them if they don't believe and they're not going to be in with it. It's kind of like, if this gets back to Michael, then yeah, I mean it with love and respect, but Mans are thinking that it's quite aggressive, militant, and it's his way or the highway. When evidence is being asked to be requested or brought up, the proof of the claim, the substance, Mans doing as Mans learned to ask for. Okay, you've made a claim. Have you got the paperwork for that? Well done. So then if he hasn't, and there can't be, and there's other issues with it, then man needs to explain, or rumours will fly like flies, I'm afraid.
Yeah, as I say, I think there could be possibly a very logical explanation for why certain info isn't forthcoming. But whether the problem is, I don't think that if that is the case, it will never be divulged.
Exactly, yeah.
Because it won't be able to be divulged, if people get my drift. So that's a strong possibility there. Personally, I've not. I've seen or heard nothing that puts me off of what they've done. Him and O'Deara have been, involved in all that. They've personally been through probably 20 years worth of shit over it, and this is their discoveries. It took them a long, long time. I personally, unless something comes along to the contrary, I'm taking nothing away from what they've done.
No, and I can't take anything away, and I'm not here to do that. I'm just saying that people are asking me questions in the .com and emails, and that I can't explain anything. I'm not, and I back up what you said. If you've spent 20 years perfecting a technique to kick someone's arse. You're not going to let someone take it off you at the last minute and go, look what I've done, everybody. Look what I can do. It's going to cost you £2,000 now. No, you're not. You're going to see it through and you're going to release it to people in your own way. You're going to do it as you are entitled to do. But whilst you're doing that, if you're not relating to the people, the mans, the beneficiaries, etc., of the action you're carrying through with them, and you're not explaining stuff and you're being hostile, then they're going to go elsewhere to ask questions if they're not getting it from the horse's mouth. And that's what the inbox is saying. And I've just got a duty to say it's private. It's Michael's work, as Kev has said, and I can't explain or answer for him. And like Steve and Mark and Tom and Elizabeth and Gary and many that hound us and have done it in a different way. I can't speak for them. We can only
don't forget though as well. There's always one good sign. They're also one of the only other places that it won't cost you any money. They're not asking for anything from you for you to go along on that journey for the property you have. There's no money involved, and even the costs are taken ultimately from the others, get paid by the other side. So, when nobody's asking you for any money, that's always a good sign.
As long as they're not asking you for birth certificates or power of attorney either, then that's even better, yeah.
Fees up front, all that sort of thing, always a bit suspicious, but they're not doing that. So, to me, that's always an honourable and a plus thing to look out for. As I say, I've not seen anything where they've asked for anything.
Menza, you, what have you done, Menza? Let's just stop the track. Rewind selector, DJ spinning the track back. Look at Menza. Look what Menza's dropped in the mix now.
He's brought the G and the N word in.
No. My US debt clock and both personal debt and credit are going down. All right then. So the debt clocks are going down to the bankers and the fiscal operators. So we're not going to see the system crash. We're going to see the system stay afloat. All fiat currencies that I've looked at, and there's about 800 of them, to be fair, across all of there's not just 10. There's about 800, 1,000 fiat currencies. They've all crashed. Not one of them up to this 800th, 900th, 1,000th mark has made it. They all crash. And so that's fact. Fact number one about fiat currency. Number two, these high frequency market stock traders, market traders, moving stock around and money and currency. When we're talking to the fam, these 500,000 that are going to come, the eradication of the middle class and the debt and the people, we let them know there's credits and money and cash and how this is all works. If we tell them that there's basically a main computer that you can have, and it will issue unlimited credits. Why are we all fighting like we are for these debts and stuff? These bankers have got the power. We could take control, like the Federal Reserve has allegedly gone back to US government under Trump, and we're looking at the monarchy, the bank and the Vatican, the Federal Reserve, the Nasara Jasara debts and money. Then I do believe that we have the power to authorise these lot, fix up, or we can have it a different way. So there is a lot of claims of these. There's only one way to fix it. Giving everybody 8 million quid isn't the way. So if they rewind clocks and debts and keep this fiat currency credit creation, fractional reserve, fictional fractional fractional reserve with the Peter Piper picked a pecker pepper in pure persona, and we could enhance and give, because credit is money. Is not credit. Credit is just a system. Money, effectively, what does money do? If we want to break it down, it gives objects value. It's so we can say, here's my Ferrari, it's a limited, whatever, from 1969. It's only got 10 miles on it. I want 500 grand for it, yeah. And so that money, that 500 grand of whatever, just happens to be pounds, is assigning that item, that object, a monetary value, and then we want an exchange of that value that we can then go and play with to the value of 500,000 squids. But if you get credit, you can have that payment transaction, that currency. You got legal tender, and all of these things here in the play. What they've done is they've created such a dirty mechanism where you can have, like, the solicitor is there to translate in the court. Money has its own, constitution, a language, a systems, mechanisms set up. You have a lawful constitution, a banking constitution. So what we need to see is it needs to go our way, Mensa. That clock needs to keep going down, and we've paid in more, in billions and trillions of everything. So that needs to go. We need to watch it, and we need to manage it. And if it doesn't go our way, then we have all of the tools, all of the capability, and all of the systems and knowledge and authority to make it go our way. So either way, it's going to go to better times. I did say this would be the last year, and it would be a big year at the beginning of the year. And Kevin and I did remark in January and February at how fast and massive things were going. And we said, we dread to think where we'll be. And here we are. Here we are, everyone. The national debt clock and the US Treasury is going backwards, allegedly.
Right. See you soon. See you soon, Lisa.
If that clock represented the...
Good luck down the fish camp.
See you, Lisa. If that clock, lots of love, represented, we'll miss you. I'm going to do two things now. If that clock represented the doomsday clock as well, by parallel, that would be even better in the environmental status, going backwards, and all of the eradicated species becoming back alive again. And yeah, it's a good sign. Things being arrested, such as Clinton's and Winfrey's, is hilarious. Prince Andrew, he daren't leave the fucking landmass because he'll never get back in. No. He's no way he's leaving. Prince Andrew, blah, blah, blah. TV licence, Royal Charter, BBC, Prince Andrew, Jimmy Savile. Can you tell what it is yet? It's my conditional acceptance for a fuck you for your licence, you fucking, so Prince Andrew, he's too scared to leave. I'm just, sorry, Prince, I know your monarchy and everything, but it's hilarious.
Get stuffed, you pedo prick.
He couldn't dare.
Straight to you, HRH, fucking Prince Andrew, you nonce.
It's just terrible, isn't it, the monarchy and its enthrallments with Kev. That was quite an outburst. I'm quite proud of you on that one. I swear to God, I will never serve the monarchy. The monarchy again after Diana and the stuff there, the wrangles, and the only thing I can say with Diana is, this is where we are again in the macrocosm, microcosm thingy of life, where you think after some shit like that, you can't really get away with nothing else. Diana came out and says, "Hello, everyone." On the newspaper of the Sun, I believe, or the News of the World at the weekend, and says, "I think I'm going to be killed." She came out, the Princess of England, like the BBC and the World Centre that hadn't collapsed, being reported as collapsed. The Princess came out and she said on national news, like the three idiots that drive a car when they're blind, and said, "I think I might be in danger." I don't know much else to say. My butler pretty much knows everything. He's called Paul. I'm going out with this bloke here, and he's got a rich dad who wants a passport. He's called Alpha. Remember at the time it was hilarious, and there was so much controversy. There's loads of oil going off. The government's stolen his dad's oil, and I've pissed everybody off. And so I'd just like to say I think I might die. What happened a week later? Diana was dead. What? Hang on a minute. No, and we all just let that slip by, did we, as well? These motherfuckers. So we say to Prince Andrew, on behalf of the dead princess of the landmass, who was probably the only innocent, the decent, most innocent one ever to bequeath that landmass there, the monarchy side of things, for her and her sons. I hope you get what's coming to you, and no butter.
Yeah.
No butter.
Yeah, not even a spit, mate. Going in dry. You deserve it.
Wow. Yeah, I never serve a monarch like that. And monarchy, I've lost trust. I've breached the trust.
No,
After all the scandals that have come out, we have a position, a lawful dissent, a lawful, not to start a riot, but to express our opinion. You know, if you was in the street, if these were in the street where you lived, how would you handle that? You know, we'd have to have a street meeting, I'm sure.
yeah, I mean, as I say, they're not even, when you look at it properly, they're not even the royal family. That's how far it goes. They're even imposters there. The Rothschilds are more royal than those twats.
She's predicted her death in letters. Yeah, look at this now. We've ignited something here. We're trying to get off. I shouldn't have done that. I take the blame for that. Sorry, but it needed saying. You know, we don't forget. We got the. You know, I mentioned something quite serious there, and blood curbing him. I can't even say it properly, but Srebrenica. You know,
Yeah,
and
you got it. That's
oh,
perfect.
that when she, I seen the carnage, and our lass has heard the UN Allied forces bombing the shit out of it, and she's quite a timid, you know, young lady. I'll say middle age actually, but young for the sake of the for the realm and the consciousness. She's a beautiful young queen, and she's quite timid, and she explained to me sometimes, you know, when talking about life differences, different worlds we've grown up in, and she was explaining listening to bombs dropping while she was going to sleep and how scary it was, and because it's probably, I don't know, I can't tell you, 100 kilometers away, and you're hearing that, you know, it's a lot, it's far enough away to not be near it, but it's not that far enough away to hear, you know, and these massacres and what went off there, what, like Chris Hitchens, he's another one that's passed, but he says about religion, about good people and bad people, doesn't he, and what religion, you know, and you got Protestants and Catholics and you know, Protestants, yeah, and Christians and Muslims or whoever it is, religion can make bad people do and good people do. What is it he says? Can you think of that
He
for
says,
final
what he
thoughts?
says, generally, you know, across the world, good people will generally do good things, and bad people will do bad things. But it takes religion to make good people do bad things. That's what he says.
Ah, that's the word, you see. I couldn't remember. That's pretty new to me still, but I did like that. I went, oh, I must remember to
Yeah,
mention that bit. That's a nice little simple. And when we say religion to do bad things, we'll go with the sexual mutilation of young babies, genital
yes,
parts. And he goes on to say, so if you got caught, you know, in Western areas red-handed like that, you'd be locked up. You'd be seriously dealt with. You got caught mutilating sexual organs of a Western baby in the name of. They'd lock you up. They'd say you was a dirty pedo and that you'd been sexually molested, and you know, and but over in the regions where you have to be careful of anti-Semitism, but when it's a fact, you don't have to be careful of nothing but telling the facts. When you do for religion that act, and you circumcise, and you say it's for religion, then it's allowed. And he gives, so when this man speaks, you got to give him, because when he blows somebody away, he will then give the backup for that blowing away. He's like a walking cannon, but he does it really eloquently and so politely. And he says, "So I rest my case." And
yeah.
he does another good one about a baby being born somewhere and some kamikaze death
Oh,
pilots. What's that one? That was a crazy one. That one, wasn't it? I like that.
he does one about. He says to one guy, "What would you, if I was born now? What would you rather me be, a Wahhabi baby or an atheist baby?" That's an interesting question. I can't remember the other one,
There's
but what
one
was I going to
about
say?
in Pakistan. He goes, "There's a baby born in Pakistan, and would you like it to be, yeah, and given today's circumstances, and you know,
Yeah,
and if you wouldn't want it to be like those kamikaze religious nuts, and you want it to be like me, why wouldn't you want it to be religious?" And he was into the religious. It was a really cleverly worded, argumentative question that I just doffed my cap at and went, "Yeah,
yeah.
man,
I tell you the other
respect."
thing he does, going back to the circumcision and stuff, which is beautifully pointed out. He says, "So there you are, your religion, whatever your religion might be, and God has delivered you this wonderful creation, this child, this beautiful child, and the first thing they go, right, let's get a sharpened stone and start hacking away at the genitals. This perfect creation. God obviously made a mistake. We need to hack some bits off.
Yeah, no, it's a
Yes.
bloody mess where we've ended up. Literally on all fronts, a bloody mess. And when we look at history, there is a point to this. There is a narrative through history, through Titans, through Argonauts, through Persians, through Egyptians, through Romans, through Saxons, all right up to 1,000 years ago, 1066. Okay, the conqueror of Will I Am, no less, was storming these grounds. He was kicking the arses like he had the blood of a Hun inside him. And the arsenal of the Egyptians and the knowledge of the Greeks. It was like some I don't know, accomplishment that in strategic battle formation I would doff my cap, to this if it was just one man named William. But then his inability to break into a section of Britain which was round London town. These monks had settled there, and the battles and the what you find in it's not clean. Okay, it's filled with blood and slaughter and pillaging, and right up from Mount Sinai back out, instead of going up there with the rape and the pillage and the torture and the molestation and everything there. It's do not thou shalt not kill. There's translations that we're finding out. When I say Renaissance of Egypt, the Renaissance of the text and the scrolls, what Hitchens found out is already overdue, which isn't already out there. Like the mistranslations of the words, young lady, not young virgin. That makes all the difference, doesn't it then? If you get that mixed up, young lady and virgin, and you go around telling everybody one day a virgin will deliver the Son of God, when it's really one day a young lady will deliver the Son of God.
Yeah.
There's a big fucking difference, old bean. Yes, there is, isn't there?
Yeah, that throws a bit of a spanner in on the Immaculate Conception then, doesn't it? Can I just say quickly, Vince is just saying about Sir Keir Starmer, labelling stopped 4 victims from taking Savile to court. Well, yeah, it's not allegedly, it's fact, absolute fact. When he was head of CPS, that's exactly what he did. That is easily checkable fact. He did that. Stopped him being prosecuted. But then he is of that ilk, and he was probably getting sent a few through the post himself from Jimmy. Who knows?
Bless all.
Who knows?
Thank you. It's good night. Yeah, it's 10 past. We are shutting down, believe it or not. We're just, what
10 past 12?
We gotta go, yeah.
What does my clock say? 3 hours on the phone?
Stop 4 victims from taking Savile to court way back, allegedly. I like that. Look at the way we're all, allegedly, that's it. Indemnified, protected. And
no, I just spoiled that for myself.
I know, yeah, that's it. I know, I'm just, I like to read
that. No, that is a fact. It's easily checkable fact. I stand on it.
Yeah, this debt, you see, debt. What is debt? Debt, listen to me now. In the bibliothèque. Hear me now. Rewind selector. You need a light chop, man. I know I'm not really black. It's a feeling, and I'm feeling that language, patois. Debt. In the Lord's Prayer, it does say, and when I found out this, when I was in the legal realm and my mum in the university and all the law and yes, hello, what, and I was hearing trespass and criminal trespass, I thought that was a modern word. Bankers and lawyers, I thought they were modern words. When I heard Jesus kicking out the bankers and the money changers and the lawyers, I'm like, what do you mean? There was bankers back there. Shut up. No, they were. Yeah, they're right. Oh, God, Lord, these lot have been around a long time. Bankers and lawyers and whatnot. The Lord's Prayer, trespass. I was like, no, I definitely thought that was a modern word. You mean it was trespass back in the day? They actually had, oh, wow, okay then. And then my brain was shifting around, my consciousness expanding and shimmering, and dancing around and not knowing which way, but just madness. Because you have these, I don't know, you almost have these moments where you think you know something, and then it just in a second, it shattered and moved, and you're like, whoa, that's a That's massive. You weren't just wrong. You really fucked up that one. That was a real, you idiot. Don't let anybody find that out. You, shame on you. You know, words to songs, some might sing the wrong word. History for me, when your thousands of thing is out, but debts, forgive those trespassing and forgive those who you know, and their debts, you know, and forgive those, and forgiving debts and stuff as well. And debts too, you pay your debt to society by being given sentencing and serving your time. So you know, these words, chattel, the French for chattel, chattel number 7, the sovereign chattel number 7 is a lovely sparkling Perrier we do. Chattel, sheep, and the flock for money. Debt, to forgiving those that you know, debts, and you know, it's just interesting. Kev, don't sleep.
I'm not asleep.
That's your
I'm
sleeping.
right here.
We're going. Don't do that to me again. That was hilarious. The mini Darth Vader.
I was kissing the bed. As soon as I sat up, I thought, shouldn't really be sitting back. I was gone.
Thank you. Yeah. So we've got lots to look forward to, lots to do. We've had your update. We've had your history. We've explained a few of the missing gaps. We've had a laugh. Everyone's all right, Kev. The week.
Yeah, it's all good. We've dropped some stuff in there, pointed out bits and pieces. There's a few mentions about UC. If anybody has any trouble with that, come and have a chat or let us know. Email us, and we'll have a little dig around in there. Can't see. There's nothing any. Not on this to sound big-headed, but there's nothing any of these corporations can do now that would phase us. Quite frankly, we got it sorted. It's usually just down to how long before they admit we've shafted them, which is generally where the problems lie.
And the malicious intent that they seem to have, it's not straightforward. They seem to hold grudges. They seem to be an angry, jealous agency, a bit like the Old Testament contract style.
Angry, jealous imposter. What an angry, jealous imposter you are.
Maximus was not pleased when the SPL's notice of conditional acceptance arrived, and he got his head. Warrior, well, it's not warrior, is it? What did he have? Romans emperor Maximus summons. You know, this is what we're doing here. I don't know. It's only what you're entitled to and what you're due, and when you've got your rights before you, and their system says if you don't know you got no rights, you got no rights, and let idiots be idiots. Well, we're not idiots, and we found our rights. So hello.
Absolutely, and they don't like it. What do you mean you want us to play fair? How dare you after that? We're going to stop all your money and hope you die.
Well,
basically
furnishing their friends offshore tax havens profits. Yeah, we've caught them out too many times. That's another thing.
And then
bonus
still dipping in the account when you're sanctioned.
So yeah, we've done good. We'll be back with much work to do. Final thoughts have been said. I'm glad we got out of that bloody mess. I don't know how we got there, but sorry, it was needing to be said, and it's one of a really relevant point when you look at it and you actually just stop and go, actually, yeah.
Absolutely.
I didn't want to make a claim on David's channel just in case. We're all family here, Mensa, don't worry. I see Mensa's doing some liability here, but we're all family. No one's going to be held accountable except David. But how are they going to do that when it's Mr. David, who I've inputted as the person here? He's at play, not I. Mensa's, I didn't want to make a claim. Kevin, 100%.
Oh, yeah, I see it, yeah.
Thank you. Super Troopers, Initiates, Scholars. Keep doing what you're doing, and we shall do the same. Keep bestowing upon you more weapons, history, knowledge. We do need help. We are looking at getting that card printer sorted. Shout going out to a donor that says, I think we got a card printer coming, laminator.
Quinn, would that be rights, RITES as well, mate? I would make the assumption it is.
Blessings. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. What's that, Jerry? Uh, with the Gans. Actually, it's funny you should mention that, Jerry. Um, I I came off. I come off the Gans. Right, I got off my habit with the Gans. I'll come off the Gans for a few weeks. I did, and I've probably had 4 or 5 weeks without, and now I've just the last 3 or 4 days put the bracelet and the necklace back on. I've got a bit of an issue with the necklace, which I've been talking to Dave about, but I do notice, because I sort of done a blind, so I had it on for about 3 months, and I took it off, and I was only going to do it for a couple of weeks, but it's ended up as 5. Put it back on, and I do notice my lung capacity appears to be slightly bigger, and it feels clearer. I've still got crap comes off of it, but it actually does feel clearer. But as I say, I need to get a little repair done on me necklace. But yeah, it's just gone back on it. So yeah, I'm trying to sort of objectively go right, 3 months on, a few weeks off, back on again. But that's the initial, just 3 days. I can honestly say that is something I can report personally. It does make the capacity feel slightly larger and clearer when I'm breathing, or easier, should I say. That might be a better description.
So we've just gone through an effective 1988 time extend at the Lotus Turbo Outrun at the arcade machine here, and instead of getting off, we've now gone on to the subject of GANs, and this is all right because Anders is sending over an electro plate that I need so I can make some of this. What the miracle I will profess is of the GANs is this CO2 GANs. It's in the wristbands and the necklaces. Everyone's got a wristband with CO2 GANs in, and then the test tubes had cup of life GANs in it, which is a different type of GANs. But the CO2 GANs I like the best because it makes the bananas last long. That's what the spray was on there, CO2 GANs, and it also makes rashes disappear. It gives let me think. Water life is in my water there, charging up is the water life, but it's effectively giving out an orgonite type of radiance resonance. Tesla worked out that the secrets of the universe are down to the resonance, frequency, and vibration. And he was a big pyramid fan. I didn't know this, but I found Tesla in the pyramids by accident other week of Tuesday. Tesla in the Grand Temple of the pyramids of, and the stone that they built. The pyramids, granite, the granite that they used that wasn't from the area, that they used 800 frecking tons of, that come from 500 miles away or something, kilometres, maybe miles. He worked out that the pyramids working in such a way possibly could have most likely looked like to have emitted power. And yeah, these GANs, because I look into power resonance frequently is what you do, and we look at these works and what gets put to us. They give out that resonant vibration, and it does something to the body's cells. I can say, for me not to have arthritic pains and lower back pain, is amazing. And just from wearing the the necklace and the wrist thing, that's why I said you lot need to try this, because if you get similar results, then we can look at producing it, and everybody that's got similar minor issues can get some kind of what do we say now? Relief from it, remedy.
Yeah, some sort
Not,
of relief. So yeah,
yeah,
even if it's just an easing of some symptoms or whatever. But you've had some good results with your pain, haven't you?
lower back pain, wrist pain, bananas last forever. Strawberries don't go mouldy. When you get strawberries, and if you don't eat them in a day, next day they've gone mouldy. You know that scenario. That's not happening. Grapes and peppers, stuff in the fridge. I've planted some potatoes and given them Gans water, and it's like day of the Triffids. I honestly, I've sprouted some radishes and carrots. The radishes have gone ape shit, and the potatoes, I've given Gans water. So yeah, I've got nothing but positive things to say from it. The cup of life, water of life is a different GANs. It's not CO2, zinc, and copper. I don't think it's made different elements make it, but I think it's CO2, which is the zinc and copper that makes the CO2 gans. It might not be that, but that one is what will get mass distributed for trial. Yeah. If there are any dentists out there that want to give me a tooth cheap, I am also looking for a dentist, by the way. I've got a gap. I'm not letting you see my pirate effect. You can hear it for now. You can imagine it. It's awful. I've got a gap in my front tooth. You know, I look like when I smile, like I've got no brains. I look like a homeless with no brains. If I smile,
Homo Dave.
yeah.
I wash myself with a rag on the stick.
Meanwhile, while Rome gets drunk on the blood of virgins and innocents, David's looking for a dentist. The battle is paused. I cannot go out to battle looking like a homeless with no brains.
Yeah,
But
teeth's the worst. Teeth is the worst.
you can.
I sympathise, mate. I've been there.
But we're just going to go back to the GANs. Thank you for that. You can look at making your own GANs. There's lots of Wikipedias. I know it's dodgy and not to be trusted, but I've checked them out. And Anders has given me some links. I can, if you email me, I'll send you some GANs stuff. All the links I've got, and you can join. You can work on your own, but you can work and help us as well, and we can share results. Mini scientists, scholars around the realm. You work on your own labs in your own cellars and basements and attics and rooms.
Jerry's got something for you there, Dave.
Has he got something for me? What's this?
Yeah, about your teeth.
Oh no, I don't. Do I want to read it though? If it's from Jerry.
Of course you do. He's trying to be helpful. Jesus
Yes,
Christ, you're so ungrateful.
Have we got a new Jerry in the room? It's the two Jerrys. Let me see. Cheap teeth. I can get you a horse. Oh, here we go.
The one big front one.
Mr. Ed, he's you the keeper of Mr. Ed, and you can give me one of Mr. Ed's teeth. I'll take one of them. If it's Mr. Ed's, he was the man back in the day. He was actually the horseman, but Mr. Ed, a horse was a horse, of course. I used to love that shit. I'll have a toast too. Cheers, G man. How did I know it wouldn't be real as well? Before I got there, Jerry. You see, when we say your reputation precedes you, my good man, there we go.
Jerry, I still want to relate the story to you at some point of what I didn't say that night because we were on David's channel. Still makes me laugh. I've got a reminder of what it was about.
Right, are we going now? Are we all doing the thing?
Well, I don't know. You're always going. Listen, I'm just a follower, mate. You're the leader. Take
You
control.
started answering Gans questions, and then we were back onto Gans, and then we ended up back where.
Well, I can't just ignore the clients in the room, can we? God, fucking hell, you're so rude, David.
You are fucking smoking a fag. Smoking a fag. I'm not actually, but.
I will be in a minute.
My Wayne Esser.
Shut up.
Nice one. Much love. Thank you for the horseplay, Jerry. No more horsing around. I don't want to nag you. Furlong. The main point is that there is a point to this tale.
It's time to go. David's gone mental.
Yeah, Mr. Ed's done it. I'm all excited.
Mr. Ranson had some spare. Jesus, yeah, didn't she? Yeah, Christ. Made a yacht out of them. Right, thank you everybody for joining us this Sunday Eve, Monday morning as it is now. Have a great week, you know who we are. Should that will require us to anything. And much love to you all. And thanks again. Really appreciate your time and coming and join us and have a listen. And we'll see you very soon. Peace and love to you all, me brethren and sisters.
Thank you for that, Rasta Kev, and yeah, I echo that. If you are a neighbour, and someone said you got to meet Dave and Kev. Hello, howdy neighbour. Thanks for joining. I hope to see you soon. We'd like to have a chat about all of the stuff in here and more. Believe it or not, we've got more. We've got too much. It's bursting. So yeah, it's been fun. I'm sorry for the delay of yesterday. The .com, they ravaged us, is all I can say, and we was no use to man or beast by the time we'd finished with each other. So thank you all, it's been fun. There is a lot more history gaps to fill in. That was just another little scratch on the surface of areas of such that are danced around by the academic and some of the freeman constitutional areas of key importance there, like we're giving you with NATO and universal laws, UN rights, human rights, various charters, Magna Carta charters of rights. It's just a similar thing. It's a similar document, but it carries more backing and more weight. We believe there's been an on-purpose misdirection of the game of life and your lives, and to get the property, and so the system and the controlling mechanisms, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call it, can get its way. So we seem to have bust out the mould, and yeah, it's been an honour and a privilege, and we enjoy it. We love it, and it's what we do. So yeah, thank you, Kev, for your time. Thank you, Broom, and Mikasa Sukasa.
It's a pleasure. It's always good. Thank you, David.
You're welcome. Let's go. Much love.
Bye all. Good night.